You're listening to The Good Life. It's actually our second show. We had a great pilot last week. I'm joined by my partners in crime, Mr. Ray Giudice of Giudice Law, and Ted Jenkin, the CEO and founder of Oxygen Financial. And I'm Frank Duffy, the owner of Duffy Realty. And again, we're your host for The Good Life here, a new podcast talking about guy things by guys unapologetically. We're talking sports, cigars, good wine, good bourbon, any type of subject that would, again, interest the guys, and we hope it interests you as well, and we're glad that you're listening. So, Ray, Ted, welcome to the show.
Well, happy Thursday to you here. Right? Beautiful night right here at the Palm. I'll tell you, it is the good life, guys, because I had just purchased tickets for Sting, who's playing in Las Vegas. That's what the good life is.
Absolutely.
I'm going next year. He's only going to come one time. You never know when these guys are going to die. You have to see him before they're going to die.
And he's sort of in his second act of his career right now.
Yeah.
He's doing a lot of solo stuff, some light jazz, and some,
right.
Which is great.
I saw him at the Jazz Fest last year. The Jazz Fest just wrapped up last week, but last year when I went, he had a set. It was probably about an hour and 15 minutes, the last set on that Saturday night, and I'm telling you what, that place was packed, and he puts on an incredible show. And he brings a lot of the police stuff back as well.
Oh, yeah. I've always wanted to be in a mic, like in front of a lot of people, and have that Roxanne.
Now, guys, before we get started tonight, again, we want to touch on, kind of who we are and what we're doing here. And, we've all been around Atlanta for a long time. In fact, we added up the amount of experience that we have and what we do all here in Atlanta. And it's close to 100 years of experience, not only in business, but playing as well. Ray, you've been here now, 35 years as a trial lawyer?
It'll be 41 years. I moved here in August of 1978 from Yonkers, New York, and wound up over at Emory College and then Emory Law School. And I've been practicing law here. It'll be 35 years at the end of this year. And in a row, too. I like to point that out. No timeouts from the State Bar of Georgia. No rehab stints. I have had to go walk in the woods a few times to clear my head over the years.
The ink is dry on all those licenses.
Statute of limitations is run on most of the improper acts from the 80s and early 90s. As I like to say, if you lived through the 80s, you're just not scared of anything at this point in time.
And Ted Jenkin, of course, the CEO and founder of Oxygen Financial. Again, Ted, you and I go back to 2007 when we were first doing our radio shows on 790 The Zone.
Yeah, the good news about that, Frank, is they didn't tell us that the AM signal would not go outside the perimeter. So we were on at 7:30. They say, you got a great show here at 8 o'clock. There's literally hundreds of listeners listening to the show right now.
Hey, and by the way, actually this is when I got introduced to the Palm here. I mean, this is kind of like our second home, and it all came from 790 The Zone. We used to come over here and see Willie Salucci with his pinkies.
Willie.
Well, I cut my first deal probably 11 or 12 years ago to start with 790 The Zone. I had been doing Nancy Grace's show on CNN HLN for years, and during the Michael Vick trial, we were covering that case. When I say we, I mean Nancy and her team and myself as sort of legal commentator. And there's Steak Shapiro and Sandra Golden, who I really didn't know. I've heard of them, going to talk about Mike Vick on air. And after that show, Steaky and I came here, sat at that bar, and I wish to this day I'd saved the napkin, the palm napkin that we wrote the deal on.
That's cool.
And I think I was there 2 Fridays later and started. And as my now ex-wife, a brilliant woman, a great lawyer, said to me, so you really think it's a good idea to be on a show that's called Mayhem in the AM? And my famous last words were, what could go wrong?
All three of us did time over there, and it was great. I mean, if you can make real estate interesting at the Duffy Realty Show on Sunday mornings, you can make anything interesting. And again, my wife Rhonda and I, we own Duffy Realty here in town. We've had sold over 27,000 homes in the Atlanta area, helped another 6,000 buy. Good Lord willing, we keep this engine rolling down the track. But again, it's all about, this show is about enjoying the fruits of your labor. It's working hard and then, having time to stop and smell the roses, enjoy all the work that you've done, and do it in a good way, right? Again, Frank Sinatra leads us in with the good life. that's really what it's about. Yeah, it's making money, but it's being able to expend that money and have a great time doing it.
Oh, there's no doubt about it. We went out last Friday night. We were actually up in the suburbs. Some people call it Alpha-Tucky. And I was up there and I ate at Milton's, which you know has been there a long time.
Cool place.
But we had a private dinner that was done there. They did all of the food from scratch, and I thought this is the good life. I got
Absolutely.
a tour of the Milton farm, which is literally 1.07 acres right behind Milton's. You have to go for a tour if you ever go there. But the food was spectacular. You know, it opened up with some burrata and prosciutto, and it ended with like this sweet potato pancake and cinnamon ice cream on it. It was stupid good.
And kids, I can attest that 1978, this was not a foodie town. Okay,
No.
This was a tough ticket. There were a few great places, sort of a legendary steakhouse called the Coach and Six.
Oh, yeah.
Anybody remembers? And you know, it's such a brand for old Atlantans, and
Sure.
I now consider myself to be one. I'd love to
We've
find
moved
that.
into that demographic.
Yeah, we're senior citizens at this point. But you know, Coach and Six, Abby's, the Mansion, the Sundial,
yeah.
still around La Grata. I ate there the other night. Still pretty good standard. And then of course, the Buckhead Life Group came in the late '80s and sort of started to change and up the game for Atlantans. And now it's just off the. You know, I've been fortunate enough, and I think you guys have, to know Kevin Rathman a little bit and Ford Fry a little bit. They're super guys. And not just them, Gillespie. I mean, there are fantastic restaurants, not including the Palm, where we are tonight.
Hard to beat this place right here. I tell you what,
Hard
the
to beat
chicken
it.
parmesan is just off the charts. In fact, we have Jeff here now with us. Jeff, you going to come grab the drink orders from us?
Absolutely, gentlemen. How are we doing?
We're doing great.
Get you a cocktail, glass of wine, anything, gentlemen?
I think I'm going to do just a Tito's on the rocks with just a slice of orange if I can have that. That's the way I'm going tonight.
I'm going to do an ice cold Heineken if you got it.
Heineken, cold glass
Yep.
with that.
And I'm a Johnny Walker Black guy, one ice cube,
Johnny Black, one big
straight up. Just make it as easy as possible.
Thank you, Jeff. We
Scotch
appreciate that.
Is that what the whole bar cart is at Ray's house there?
That's right.
Is it literally just
Listen.
10 bottles of Johnny Walker and a bunch of
Scotch.
big cubes?
Scotch is an excellent preservative.
Ice is as
Recommend it,
extravagant as we
I
have to
recommend
get.
it for everybody. And as I tell the young lawyers, and you know, I go to the bar when I say the bar functions, the Atlanta bar, Georgia bar, young lawyers, and they're drinking these IPAs and with a slice of orange, and I'm like, we don't have fruit with our drinks. If you're going to practice law, especially if you're going to be a criminal defense trial lawyer, you need to have a brown liquor issue, okay? And now I know you're a bourbon guy.
Love bourbon.
And that's probably a decent transition for what you and I have just did together
I
with
was-
some great friends.
I was just about to say, I had a reflex and almost ordered a mint julep. Ray and I actually just got back from the Kentucky Derby a couple of
Is that
days
a blast
ago.
or what?
It's phenomenal. Well, this is about my 10th, 11th time going, and Ray broke his maiden on this one. Ray, what was your thoughts about the Derby? I'm interested to hear.
First of all, let me just say this much. For the folks of Louisville who apparently, and they do it right, they treat this as if it's a Super Bowl, and they get a 3-day Super Bowl every year, and they have a great attitude. The service and the courtesy of hundreds and hundreds of workers at Churchill Downs for 3 days. And of course, many of them must be part-time because they must ramp up for this, so they're not full-time employees. No matter where you turn to, whether it was the folks at the beer stand or the hot dog stand or our guy Charles,
Yeah.
a wonderful guy.
Whose daughter's an attorney
His
here.
daughter's
in
an
town.
attorney here in Atlanta, and he works the Derby every year. I think he lives in Memphis, got a great job, I think, with FedEx is what he told me. And he just realized that there were 6 of us, and we were degenerates, and we were going to basically.
How do you officially get coined a degenerate? Is
Well, let me tell you how
Oh,
you
no.
get coined that way.
Yeah.
We earned it.
it's an earned status.
The 6-seat box that we were in essentially looked like a frat house on a Sunday morning. Glasses everywhere, cigars, stubs, tickets from the previous races. I mean, you needed spikes to walk through this mess.
You couldn't swing a cat without hitting somebody in this thing. We were so tight in it. And what was great is that we started, I guess we've had the first cocktail on that first race on Friday, and it was like somebody yelled fire in a crowded theater. We all headed for the door. And I will tell you, we broke faster than 8 of the 14 horses in that first race.
Yeah.
And it's always a good sign. When I come back from the Derby, I can always gauge the really good time that I had by how many glasses, because again, it's all souvenir glasses. When you have a glass at the Derby, your $15 lilies on Friday or your $15 julep on Saturday, you get to keep the glass. Well, when I got home, I couldn't see the sink from all the glasses.
You collect the glasses?
I always do. In fact, my children actually drank their milk at 3 and 4 years old on Derby glasses. Now you got to grow them up right? But it was awesome, and we wound up. I stopped by my buddy, has a cigar place. In fact, by the way, I'm not mentioning your name because hopefully you will be a sponsor in the next show. We'll be contacting you. But I wound up getting a half a box of these Aldino cigars, which were fantastic. $15 sticks, and I'm telling you what, the ash on them was absolutely perfect. They were smooth. It was
why
an awesome
do guys
time.
like to collect stuff so much? You know, I mean, it is part. You think about the good life in general. We talk about it on this show, but collecting things like that, the memories of places that you've gone, cigars, glasses.
It's funny. I've never been an autograph guy, though I do have chin straps. Thank you, sir. I do have chin straps and sweatbands from when I was a kid, going to the Saints games, sitting right by the exit where the players would come out. My uncle, who was a police officer in charge of the buses there, would get me standing right there. So I like different memorabilia, but I'm not a big autograph guy. But there's just something about these Derby glasses that when you see them peppered all over, it's awesome.
Well, it's also nice from the cigars. They have the band, the cigar band, and I needed that because I proposed marriage to 47 women at the Derby. I didn't have any rings, but I had cigar bands.
Well, and I will tell you, there was a quite attractive show that was going on with all the hats. And,
the talent was ridiculous.
People take it seriously, men and women. One of the guys in our group. A fantastic lawyer from Dallas. You're going to remind me of his first name.
Was it Carlos?
Yep, yeah. Carlos. I mean, dressed.
Normally he's the guilty one.
Yeah. And we one guy was in his 2 different seersucker suits, immaculate, not a hair out of place for 12. I still can't believe it. It's like, dude, it's 8:00 at night. You look like you just walked out of GQ. We're all melting down.
He's the negotiator. He's the calm and cool and collected one. Well, it was awesome. Ray and I had a great opportunity that's not afforded to the jabronis from the public, and that is I have a good friend of mine who I, as a kid, college guys, we used to go out. His dad bred horses, and they raced a lot of them. And so we would go down to the fairgrounds from Baton Rouge and watch the races. Well, what was so cool is, he's got buddies all in the industry, and one of his good friends is Tom Amos, who is from Tom is from LSU, and he saddled a filly in the Oaks, Serengeti Empress. And what was really cool is he goes, hey, yeah, come on by the stables the next morning. So we wound up we got in that morning, Thursday morning, watched all the Derby horses work, and we walked over to his stable. So we got to hang out with Tom and all of his staff and see Serengeti Empress. I even fed her a little peppermint, got a picture of it before the race. Well, if this horse, and I was touting this horse for like the whole 2 days leading up to the Oaks, and if this horse didn't go, now when they started before the race, when they were getting ready to come out of the paddock, she was 22-1, and she wound up getting bet down. But this horse got bet down at 13-1 and went wire to wire.
You made big money on that?
Well, had 100 across on her, so it wasn't bad. It was 2,500. But what was cool was, what was great about it was it was making the call. It was sitting there for 2 days and saying, no, I have conviction. This is the one, and then having almost the race come out the exact way. Now, just like most gamblers, there's many a bad ticket that's sitting on my closet, credenza. But for that one race,
did you bet actually on the disqualification? You bet the Derby, obviously, and then did you lose money on that?
Funny thing is, I did have the horse, the 7-horse maximum security across the board. But Carlos and I, the aforementioned Carlos, had the 1 across the board as well, and I'll tell you why. The 1's racing form record looked almost identical to the winner to the Oaks. This filly that I was talking about, it was almost like a layover, right? And we wound up betting them. So my horse, who actually got taken down, clipped the heels of my other horse.
Right.
So I was like, "What's up with this?"
I had 100 to win on War of Wills.
That was the one.
Kind of describes
one.
my life.
The
War
one.
of Wills, and he got clipped. And he still ran strong. Was he fifth?
He came in fifth. Yep.
Yep. I mean,
Came
he
in
still ran strong.
How much money was bet on that 65-1 horse? A lot?
Not
Not
much.
that much.
Not much. In fact, I'm shocked. The Super only went for 57,000. I would have thought
Only
it would.
57,000,
I
yes.
would have thought it was going to be 150,000 because the
Right.
65-1 on top of a couple of other long shots as well.
And now let me
Wow.
just say that I am not a big gambler, and these guys are, and they're good at it, and they're serious. However, when you go gambling with people who are drinking, I mean seriously drinking, here's what happens. They cook up this complicated bet. What is it, like a Supra box circle?
It's a super box, but what it is, it's done on a wheel. So you've got 4 lines, and you've got multiple horses. You're hoping for a long shot.
What do you mean?
folks-
What do you mean it's done on a wheel?
You got 4 lines: first, second, third, and fourth. And you can put in multiple horses, but then that makes the combinations. It exponentially raises the price.
And there, folks, is the definition of a degenerate,
And,
right
and-
there.
and
That's
as a Marx
that's it.
Brothers fan, if you haven't seen A Day at the Races and Groucho trying to bet, this is what's going on. Now, what
You bet
happens
your
is,
life.
there's 6 of us, and we all put in, what, 400?
Yeah,
400?
450.
Okay, so there's a lot of money, almost a couple grand. And Carlos, who is a fantastic guy, a great lawyer, and if you just want to go out, it's the last night of your life, and you can't be
Carlos
with
is
a
your
woman.
guy.
Carlos is your guy, okay? And you'll find a woman because Carlos will be there, or at least Carlos will. Now he interposes a 7 and a 9, which basically cost us as a group $67,000.
He,
No
ta-
big deal.
he talked one of the
Oh,
guys
is he
out of
dyslexic or
him.
something, or no?
That was actually the Oaks. He talked the guy out of. He had it written down, and we had 67,000 by using my Empress, Serengeti Empress, and then they had it set up, and he talked him out of
What
it.
does a real bettor going to a Kentucky Derby bring for a wad of cash in their pocket? A
the
real
average?
bettor.
The real bettors,
Or the average bettor out there.
the average bettor will probably bring about $1,000. The hardcore horseman will bring between 7 and 10,000.
7 and 10,000. So it's just
about
a
right.
big fat wad of cash that they have.
Yes, that's exactly what it is. and I'm telling you, it is one of the funnest 3 days because you got the Derby on Thursday, you've got the Oaks on Friday, which is a great time because you still have it's like Christmas morning coming up the next morning. You still have the anticipation of the next day, and then the Kentucky Derby, your heart will absolutely jump out of its chest when they let them go.
And everything Frank says is correct, but let me just make sure you know how degenerate these guys are. There's 12 races on Thursday, the Derby, which is fun. It's a younger crowd. You know, it's horses that are learning.
the 30-year-olds with the
they're-
pork pie
Yeah,
hats.
right. They're trying to get, future degenerates to buy in. Friday is fantastic. Another 12 races. Now,
Mostly the ladies.
keep in mind now, the Derby on Saturday is race number 12.
Yeah, it's a long day.
Not only it's a long day, and then there's a 35-minute delay before the result is announced. Okay, now what is it? 8 o'clock? There's 2 more damn races. There's 2. We've been out there since 9 o'clock.
We
It's
call that
rain.
the Monday Night Football, and then the UAB versus South Alabama
the-
basketball game to get back.
The only people left at Churchill Downs for these races are we 6 idiots and people who are wearing trench coats.
and
trench coats and hats pulled
and
over
the
their
guys
heads.
who were like craned over looking for the tickets
Old
on the floor,
tickets, okay?
and then the woman who walked by trying to steal all of our glasses
I
and
grew-
fell all over
I grew up
herself.
15 minutes north of Old Yankee Stadium in Yonkers, New York, where your wife is from,
Yeah,
Ted, right?
yeah.
So think about a Sunday night doubleheader against the Seattle Pilots in 1970, and there's 300 people left in Yankee Stadium, and kids are going around looking for loose change and popping the cups, and you can
It
hear.
was the night at Comiskey where they had disco,
Disco
such
Inferno,
nights.
yeah, right.
That's so cool.
So this is pitiful. This is pitiful. This is
Now, this brings up a great point. I want to ask you, Ted. Bucket list trips. If you were taking a guy's trip, what would be a fun bucket list trip for you?
You know, I've actually thought about this a little bit because, oddly enough, I'm not really a golfer. Like, I don't love golf, but, if
but,
there's a
yeah.
place to go to play and it's fun and I have the time, I play. But for some reason, I really want to go take that trip where I can play Carnoustie and St. Andrews, and I don't even care if I shoot 110. I want to drink, and I want to have a good time while I'm on the course.
Greatest trip I ever took with the boys. Rhonda and I had just started going out, and we had decided we were going to go to Ireland. Well, before we went to Ireland, I told my buddies, I said, look, we've always been saying we wanted to go play golf in Scotland. So we wound up flying over. We flew into Glasgow. We did 2 days at Turnberry. Now, Turnberry is that big, magnificent clubhouse where they literally have a bagpiper pipe you to dinner. It's when they bring out the prime rib is actually in a silver serving tray that the Duke of Edinburgh had from the 1400s. I mean, this is incredible, right? And I'm looking around like maybe they're going to find out we're in here and boot us out, right? But we wound up playing Carnoustie, Troon, Prestwick, Royal Dornoch up in the north. We went up into the Highlands. And by the way, the drive back down the Scotch Distillery Roadway was quite interesting.
Unbelievable.
I wound up taking the bullet on that when I was the designated driver because I'm not the Scotch guy, I'm the bourbon guy. When we got to Edinburgh, we got to St. Andrews, and literally when we took the opening of the door of the van, they literally rolled out to the fairway. They had a blast. Wound up doing the old course not once, but twice. It was incredible. It was one of the best 8 days of golf I've ever had.
I was thinking about it because in June, this is just in a month from now, even there are local places here, I'm thinking to myself, like, look, I'm not getting any younger. I need to do some of these things. And so I booked 2 days with 3 other guys at Pinehurst.
Oh,
and
yeah,
we're going to
Pinehurst number 2.
We're going to play number 2 and number 8 up there, and it's just going to be a couple of days. And I'm thinking, even on a small trip, if you don't have a lot of money, not crazy money, like you can go overseas.
That's very doable.
You get to play that course, and then when they play the U.S. Open there next time, you're thinking, I was there. I played it. It was cool.
And hey, Tiger, I left like a couple of Titleists over there. if you get them, I'll split them with you.
You don't watch me blade the ball from 100 yards out.
And let me tell you,
no good.
And Pinehurst number 2, I think my ball is still rolling off that
That's what
green.
I'm
I think it was
saying.
like concrete.
Hooked it.
But as actually we're talking about that. We're getting ready to have the PGA up at Bethpage Black. Y'all's old stomping grounds from New York.
Unbelievable up
what
there.
an incredible public course. How cool would that be? Or go play Pebble.
I love the fact that it's a public course.
Yep.
I just think that's great. I think I'm not a big golfer. I respect the skill that it takes. But I don't like, just as a kid from Yonkers, okay?
Yeah.
I don't like this separation of the regular duffer, the guy or gal wants to go hit. You can't get to the great clubs.
Yeah.
They're private or they're
Right.
walled off or you just because you're not a
Shabatic's
member
out there,
you
a bunch
can't
of
get
places
in.
that are
Right.
out
Well,
there just
that's
stuff.
why the Bethpage Blacks
Exactly.
and like Pebble Beach. I mean,
Right.
Pebble is a course that you can get on.
Right.
And we were talking about going over to Scotland. Most of the courses in Scotland, the public can get on. I mean, they're accessible, right? They're accessible
Totally.
to golfers. If you enjoy the game, you can get out there. Speaking of, we might have to have Brian Katrick come in
Talk golf with us.
and talk golf one of these
He's a
days.
super guy
Great guy.
who didn't play golf, if I understand,
K-Trick didn't?
until he was 40.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah.
This is true. And he has a card now, right? I mean, he's got the tour card.
Yeah,
He's
I mean,
that good.
I don't know what tour he's on, but yeah, I think
No,
so.
he can really play. But I mean, he's a late bloomer, and I help sponsor his Sunday morning
Yeah, that's
show.
right.
And just does a great job. The Ray Giudice interview of the week on Brian Katrick, and I called in a couple
On 680 The
yeah,
Fan?
on 680 The Fan every Sunday morning. Does a great job.
And what's cool is all good stories come full circle. Who was Brian's partner at 790 The Zone on the golf show?
Matt Judy?
Willie
No.
Salucci.
Willie
Salucci
Hot-
was.
comes
That's right.
all good comedy comes full
Yeah,
circle,
yeah.
boys. Ray, what would be your boys' trip that you'd like to do?
That's a good question. You know what? I'm just a New York City kid. I'd like to get 4 or 5 of my hombres. We'll stay at the Benjamin over on 51st and Lex.
Nice.
It's my place.
City's always fun.
City's fun. Catch a Ranger game. Throw some stuff on the
High
ice.
school Rangers.
Catch the is it the A train up to Yankee Stadium. If you catch it right, you can catch a Ranger game and a Yankee game at the same, within 24 hours.
Hey, I went to a Yankees game one time. Me and my buddy came in town. We had a rental car. I thought it was going to be the last time I'd ever see that rental
in New
car.
York?
Let me tell you.
Man.
Don't tell me why we got it. We were a bunch of neophytes coming in. Put the rental car. We were about 4 blocks away from Yankee Stadium. And I said goodbye to it like I would never see it again.
Right. They found it on blocks on the FDR drive.
There's always something good to do, but if you love shows, or I went up a few years ago and I got tickets. This is before Jon Stewart went off the air, and I went to see the showing of Jon Stewart. and I was live in the audience. And I think, there's a lot of stuff like that if you go into the city, it's like these are experiences you just can't get in many cities.
And there's so many places now in Manhattan that when I was a kid in the 60s and 70s were verboten. You did not go down to the ABCs.
Yeah.
42nd Street, you would
not
go
go,
nowhere
you
near.
didn't go to these places unless you had a posse with
Hudson
you.
Yards just went up, which is unbelievable there.
Yep.
CNN even moved their stuff there. Battery Park's amazing now, and that used to be nothing. Like even before 911, it was nothing. But
nothing.
It's unbelievable down there now, and there's not really a bad place in the city. You had a
Hell's-
favorite place in the city?
Hell's Kitchen.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
you go over to Hell's Kitchen, it's just you're literally floating
Down in the Bowery.
You're floating with the crowd. Now, my favorite
I
place.
like Chinatown.
I'm a Lower East Side guy. My favorite uncle played. He lived in Murray Hill. Played the piano at saloons all over the
Nice.
East Side. And I unloaded fish trucks in the Fulton Fish Market down on the wharfs back in '75 and '76.
I got you tuna right here, right here.
with a hook. Working my way through community college. So I'm not a West Side guy. I'm an East Side guy. All the Hell's Kitchen's on the West
I'll
Side.
tell you for real, Ray, that even though my wife grew up in Yonkers and I grew up in New Jersey, we still go back up to New York City at least once a year.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
And 2 summers ago, we decided to take a Circle Line cruise. Never did it.
Yeah,
and I have to
that's
tell
cool.
you,
Because
it was,
New Yorkers don't do that.
They don't
We're not
do it.
getting on that boat. What are
But,
you kidding
you
me?
know,
Oh, you
Over that
kidding me?
bus, the
I ain't
double
getting on
decker.
that thing, you fakaka bus.
unbelievable.
Bullshit.
Just the whole
Right.
experience being on the Circle Line, going by the Brooklyn Bridge and Roosevelt Island, and just amazing.
I'll say that, of course, the Brooklyn Bridge has the great walking, the wooden plank sidewalks on both sides.
Yep.
And when you stand on the side facing the Hudson River, the bay, and you see the Statue of Liberty, all the boats, the planes, the buildings, you say, hey, God bless America, and we're in the most powerful city in the world.
Like Bobby Darin said, ain't nothing like Sundays in New York.
Right.
We got Jeff here. We're going to grab a little dinner order if you guys don't mind.
Ready.
Hopefully y'all are getting hungry out there just listening to us. So, guys, I got to tell you, here at the Palm, it's just a great night. Again, having great conversation, having some good drinks, some good food coming out. What is it about a steak dinner? What is it that it is like the modern sitting down at the fire in front of the cave dinner?
I feel like when you know you're going to go have a steak, you're getting into that Al Bundy moment that you're going to you're going to have the steak, and I know I'm going to stick my hand halfway down my pants, right inside my belt, and I'm going to say, that was a good meal. I didn't even care if I have sex tonight or anything. I had a good steak. I do care, Ray, by the way, but I don't care as much after I have the steak and the other good things.
Yeah, do I need to follow that?
Never follow animals or children. or Ted's comment for Jenna.
I'm going to go in a different direction. What I love about it is the simplicity.
Yeah.
Nice piece of meat. You put it on the fire. You flip it. You put a little salt and pepper on it. One little vegetable. One little starch. A big glass of red wine or a cocktail. That's it. That's enough. It's perfect.
And I think it's just something about the contrast when it comes out with the white tablecloth. Because I think there's just something about a steak place when the guys, again, you can have your wife or your guma here or whatever you got. But if it's just a guy sitting around bullshitting, talking steaks, talking sports, there's just something about when that slab of meat, that Fred Flintstone style tomahawk chop comes out. It's just the contrast of that white table.
It's interesting, Frank, because Tuesday, I told Ray I was at Hal's. It's another
great place.
Great steakhouse.
Hal's in New Orleans, man. I know him well.
It's just something about, the lights get dimmed and every woman looks like they've gone from a 6 to an 8. I don't know why. And I know if the lights
That's the new math.
If the lights goes on, 6. Lights are off, 8. And everyone looks a little bit better at a steakhouse.
We are blessed in Atlanta. Hal's, New York Prime,
Yeah.
Bones, Chops, and some new places that are coming on that are
Kevin's.
Arnett's. I don't know if you know about
Kevin's.
Arnett's up here in Brookhaven. Doing a
Good.
great job, a fantastic job. And you know what? This is really a foodie town. We talked about that a little earlier, partly because there's some money here, there's some action, but also we don't have a lake, we don't have a beach. We don't have, what do? We go out to eat and drink. I've had friends come from out of town. It's like, is this what you people do every night? That's right. We have cocktails, then we find dinner, then we have more cocktails.
And we had a great steak at Cabernet for our
my goodness, yes.
pilot show last week. I mean,
Fantastic.
that was a fantastic steak.
and also very mature, sophisticated service. It's like a baseball game. A great baseball game is when the umpire is not noticed. A great meal is when the serving staff,
That's true.
in, out, everything is right, and you say, hey, wait a second. What happened? How did this happen? It went so efficiently. Just like our man Daniel right here, making this happen for us.
So I've got a little question for you guys to get y'all through the break and make sure you teased and come on back. What sitcom did Sammy Davis Jr. appear in, and who did he
fine.
kiss that was considered the smack heard round the world?
I got
it's
it.
a
I'm ready.
tease.
I got it.
All right.
All right.
Y'all
I've
come
answered
on.
the question.
Y'all come on back in a minute, and again, we'll give you the answer.
It happened in Queens, New York.
It sure did. Thinking of buying or selling your present home? With inventory low but interest rates continuing to rise, you can't afford to wait, and you can't afford to overpay an old-fashioned agent a ridiculous 6 or 7% of your money. Frank Duffy here, and so is spring. The perfect time to call my wife, the real estate powerhouse, the documented #1 agent for home sales in America over the last 5 years, Rhonda Duffy, and our team at Duffy Realty of Atlanta. Rhonda's close-knit group of experts by specialty do it all with our trademark Duffy Secret Marketing Formula to get you paid top dollar. With Duffy selling flexibility, you call the shots to sell at your price, on your terms, or take it off the market. And Rhonda's $500 flat fee listing program won't waste your family's money. We guarantee it. 27,000 other Atlantans over 17 years will all testify. Rhonda is your next best move in real estate. Duffy Realty, because money matters. Again, want to let you guys know you're listening to The Good Life with Ray Giudice, Ted Jenkin, and Frank Duffy. Again, men about town here in Atlanta, and again, it's all about talking about good food, good wine, good cigars, good gambling, as we know from the first segment. Again, great trips, fun with your buddies, golfing, everything that a guy would enjoy listening to, unabashedly talked about. Again, without apology. And this is going to be going out to the entire Appen Media Network, over 45,000 listeners. And again, we've got about, between us, we've got about, I'd say about 25,000, 30,000 contacts between the three of us. We'll be sending it out to them as well.
So let me talk about something. When I started practicing law in Atlanta in 1985, you could hardly advertise at all. You had to have, if you had an ad in the Yellow Pages, a half-page ad, at least half of it was disclaimers.
Correct.
We're not making any promises. Cases could go any way. Blah 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 blah.
I got a Series 7. I can't
Yeah.
talk about nothing.
Late
Nothing.
80s, the United States Supreme Court finally said, you know, lawyers should be able to sell their services
Sure,
with
it's like any
having
other
all
service.
these filters and restrictions. And now so I started in that era, and now we're in this social media, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. And it's an interesting change, and I've got lawyers on both ends in my career, gentlemen and women that are a little older than me that are just flummoxed by it, quite frankly. Not intellectually, but it's so culturally different. And then there's those who are not adapting. It's like, you know what? This is what it's like to communicate with your potential clients for the rest of our careers, for sure. Ted, you're a little bit younger than all of us.
Yeah.
But for the next 15 to 20 years of running Oxygen Financial, or longer, you're doing it. You're a pro at it. And let me just say, I as someone who's done a fair amount of TV, I love your CNN Saturday morning spot.
You like it?
Absolutely.
Oh, man.
Headline news.
I'm doing one
You are
this
fantastic.
weekend about exactly what you're talking about. I can't believe we didn't even talk about this before the show.
Alexa heard you talking about it and sent it to me, so I knew. That's how I knew.
I said some naughty stuff last night. So
I've got that too. That's later in the show. That's the third drink. It comes
picked
up.
That's the unbugged hour.
They picked that up and cut some clips of me. I'm in some big trouble.
We're gonna go blue.
Making somebody laugh back in Bellevue or somewhere like that. But I am doing one this weekend all about why people are getting depressed around their money, because a lot of it's around this FOMO, the fear of missing out, that you go on Instagram and you see people that are eating the good life, or they're living the good life, and the thing is, they might living the good life
That's
that
their
day,
one night.
Correct.
Yeah.
the 1 week, the one night, but nobody posts their net worth statement on Instagram.
Well, that's what I said. I can tell you about the 13-1 Kentucky Oaks winner I had. I won't tell you about the 10 other races that
I'm
I
still
went down
thinking
to
about
play.
him, Frank. Okay, I pitched in on a lot of those. I'm with Duffy. He seems to know what he's talking about. By day two, I'm
guys,
not betting at all.
I think though that guys have to learn how to become good losers. Like, that is part of the experience. That no guy is not going to lose money somewhere in his life
Sure.
by investing in a bar, betting on a
Show
game.
me a guy that hadn't lost money, and I'll show you a guy that's never taken a risk. And if you've got a guy that's never taken a risk, he's living a life of a quiet desperation.
Sun Microsystems cost me a.
Well,
I bought in full.
the guy I look at now that you can learn from is this guy in Jeopardy. He's won
Right.
$1.7 million, but he's teaching
Tactical.
that.
He's tactical.
Right. And he's taking risks.
Changed the rules of how to play that game, where people just picked, okay, movies for whatever 20 and worked down that column 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He's like, no, I'm not doing it that way.
Correct.
I'm not only here to answer that question, but I'm here to cash out against my opponents.
I'm a maverick.
Yep.
I'm
Right.
a disruptor,
Right. No, and I
Yes.
think
which
that,
is almost all of us have done that in
But
our
what's
business.
interesting is how many years, decades has that show been on? 5 nights a week. He is the first one. Now,
Sure,
there's
yeah.
been some people just through candle power, brain power, have done very well. But he is the first one to say, I'm not playing by the rules.
Do the mathematics. 250 shows probably a year times 3. That's 750.
Yep.
That show's been on for 40 years. 3,000 people before him didn't crack the code like he did.
Something earlier I was talking about with a buddy of mine about how statistics and analytics have changed baseball.
oh,
And,
totally.
my
Yeah.
first World Series is Cardinals-Tigers 1968. I'm 11 years old. Okay, so I go
Mickey
way back.
Lolich.
Yeah, I go way back. But now it's all about, okay, we're not letting our starting pitcher be seen by the third time through the lineup. We're, lefties, right. I mean, it's
My best hitter's
insane.
leading off.
Weird.
I
Yeah,
know.
weird.
crazy.
Because we want to get him more at bats. There's no, Lou Gehrig was number 4. He batted 4th in the lineup behind Ruth, who was number 3, 3rd in the lineup. Okay, and that's how it was for 20 years.
Well,
it's all different now.
and they're doing all these new things now. But I like to go back to what Ray's always said. It's one of the edicts he's always said. Like Orlando Cepeda or Pete Rose said, "See the ball,
Hit
the ball." Don't make this overcomplicated.
And where this lightning bolt hit me was during this gambling orgy. I'm like, can you guys just pick a winner? How about the fastest horse that comes in first? Let's bet on him, okay?
Okay, guys, I want to let our listeners know the answer to our little trivia question when we went to break. Sammy Davis Jr., if you remember, it was a very big thing when he went on Carol O'Connor's
All in the family and kissed
Archie
Carol
Bunker,
Archie
right?
Bunker.
On the cheek. And what was cool about that was by and really Norman Lear with his entire show
Unbelievable.
was making a farce of racism by actually making fun of as a racist would. So it was a brilliant way to disarm racism. And so it made me think about what entertainment, again, Frank Sinatra was a great example. He literally stood next to Sammy Davis Jr. Said, if Sammy's not going to be in this hotel, I'm not going to be in this hotel. Sammy's not performing on that dais, I'm not performing on that dais. And entertainment and sports played a pivotal role in the civil rights movement.
Well, I mean, All in the Family did for sure. I mean, 100%.
And think about the following show.
The Jeffersons came
Absolutely.
right after that.
And Maude,
Correct.
which was,
Maude.
yes, but look back on that. Here
Women's
is an
rights.
older woman, divorced,
Right.
extremely independent,
Yep.
sort of androgynous sexually, okay?
Yeah.
Not your
Yeah.
typical,
Yeah.
you
Femme
know,
fatale,
I
yeah.
Dream of Jeannie, which was the woman of the 60s and 70s sitcoms.
Yep.
Here's a woman with gray hair,
Yep.
wearing bulky sweaters, and sharp as a tack, in charge, in control. You know, that's like for a lot of people, it's like, what is this?
I think
you
they
know?
covered menopause for like 6 episodes.
I think
Yeah.
it'd go on a little longer.
And then Walter used to like his scotch. Please, Maud, please leave me alone, Maud.
Soap was in there, too. Soap was a great show.
But going back to athletes, I
And good
think
times.
As much, and we worship and honor Jackie Robinson, but before Jackie Robinson was Jesse Owens.
Yes.
And Jesse Owens, and I want to say it was the 38 Olympics.
36.
Thank you.
Yep,
In
in Berlin.
Germany, in Nazi Germany, gives the up yours to
Correct.
Hitler. Okay? He wins multiple races. He stands on the platform next to the German Superman
Correct.
and says,
Who are 2 rungs lower.
that's right. And if you know about the African American contribution to World War II, whether it was the Red Ball Express, and remind me what the fighter pilots group was.
Tuskegee Airmen.
Tuskegee Airmen.
Yep.
Yeah, you know, he was telling them, "We're coming for you."
Absolutely.
Adolf.
Absolutely. And we're not afraid of you.
Not
here,
afraid of
I'll,
you.
I'll stand here.
That's
and there
right.
were a lot of Jewish athletes that were actually
That's
on
right.
that 36 team as well, at great cost
Peril.
to their peril.
Peril.
Yeah, good word. But again, sports is the great equalizer. It allows fathers and sons who might not have the best, relationships to be able to sit down and talk. It allows societies to be able to look in the mirror at themselves. I mean, you think about Larry Doby, who was the American League version,
Cleveland Indians.
correct,
Right.
of Jackie Robinson. You look at the Buck O'Neills, which, by the way, our good friend Chris Domino on 680 The Fan did a fabulous interview with Buck O'Neill. It's part of the Ray Giudice interview of the week on 680 on Saturday mornings. You think about the effect that sports had to soften and then galvanize a society around integration.
So think about the 55 Brooklyn Dodgers who finally break through and beat my Yankees.
Correct.
Don Newcomb,
Campanella.
Roy Campanella, double MVP before his tragic accident.
Correct.
Jackie Robinson. So here is on the biggest stage. Here are 3 African American athletes performing at the
Arthur
highest
Ashe in
level.
tennis.
Arthur Ashe, right?
There were actually not a lot of black golfers. Only Calvin Peete. I remember he used to play all the time. He was one of the first few black golfers that were out there.
And then, of course, Tiger comes along and changes
Crushed it.
the way that everybody
He
thinks
now
about
got the
game.
Presidential Medal
I know, I
of
saw
Freedom.
that.
He looked so happy.
Yeah.
His smile was just
Look,
ear
Trump
to ear.
had 3 women for him in the Oval Office. That's why. That's why he looked happy.
Look, say what you want
And there was
about
a Waffle House 3 blocks from the White House.
and it's kind of funny. Rhonda and I actually went to a Belize island that actually Tiger used to bring the girlfriends to.
Really?
Yeah, I kid you not. And even though I would not say good husband, probably not maybe even a good father, but the thing about Tiger is America loves a reclamation project.
Totally.
We're if you have done your mea culpa, and shockingly, Tiger was one of the last people that would ever have done a mea culpa, right? I mean, he was so arrogant in his talent. Not really a nice guy from all accounts.
Right.
But when he hit bottom, and then he started to return, what he went through in that 11 years of wilderness since she wrapped a 6-iron around his windshield, right? Every guy's nightmare. What winds up happening is he comes back to the pinnacle and wins the Masters. I mean, what a story.
It's unbelievable. I mean, our country loves that. We love people
do.
that totally fall from grace and then they work their way all the way back to top. By the way, I think Bryce Harper is on that path. He's on his way down. I say he
Good.
won't. I say he won't hit 200 this year, Then he's going to figure out that he does something really bad, cheats on the girlfriend, wife, or whatever it is. Then he works his way back
A
up.
pox on him. I don't care if he's with the Washington team or Kincaid's Phillies.
The shame of that is he gets the press, and Trout doesn't.
Oh, and he's ridiculous.
He is, as a guy who sort of worshiped Mickey Mantle. He's the next Mickey Mantle. He is Mickey Mantle right now.
Now, with Tiger coming back, something that we never thought we would see again. I mean, I can't find the tweet. I've actually looked for it from a couple of years ago when I actually said I think Tiger will win another major, maybe two. Can't find it, unfortunately. But having someone that you never thought that you would see at the pinnacle again, is there anybody in any genre, be it entertainment or music or sports, that's out there now that you think is done? There's just no way they would come back, but you would like to see them come back.
That's a good question.
In any sport?
Pick a sport, pick a genre, pick music, pick entertainment.
I mean, it's never going to happen, but honestly, when Mike Tyson stopped boxing, I stopped watching boxing, and I don't even know if I really like Mike Tyson. I now am relegated to watching World Star Hip Hop when I flip through Facebook and things like that to see guys knocking each other out, because I don't know, there's just something interesting about watching some guy knock out another guy. I don't know why it's so interesting.
Well, I can tell you that growing up in New York,
he was a beast.
The first Ali Frazier fight, 1969 at Madison Square Garden, and what heavyweight boxing was.
Yep.
Compared to what it is, it's just
It's
a
a
shame.
dead sport.
It's a
dead
dead
sport.
And I don't think
Just
it'll
like
ever-
horse racing. No different. At least
I
horse
think
racing
horse
has
racing at
its
least hangs
time.
on. It
Well,
has its
it
premier races.
It has its glamour days, but again, we talked about this the other day. What were the three big sports back in the first half of the 20th century? Boxing, horse racing, and baseball.
Right?
But I'd
Jack-
love to see him come back. I'd love to see it.
I think you could probably beat most of these clowns that are holding themselves out as heavyweights.
But he's a guy
anyway.
also who fell from grace.
Yes.
And then,
Correct.
when he got into movies like The Hangover, which he was great in, he was great movie. He was great in the movies, You just wanted to see him. You're like, I like that guy. And even
nice.
He's come a long way. He had,
And spinal.
kid came from nothing. Worked
And-
out at
and-
Grossingers up in the Catskill Mountains.
Customato.
Yep.
Customato
Good
trained him. I'm telling you what, I was in a bar business back in the 80s, and I actually wound up, it's a funny story. I had a campus bar at LSU, and I had a big screen TV, and I had a big satellite, and I normally could pick up anything, like pirate anything off the satellite. And so I'm like advertising. My girlfriend and I are just, putting signs all around. Duffy's Tavern is going to have the Mike Tyson, Michael Spinks fight, Monday night at blah, blah. And then when I go to, like 4 days before, I'm trying to descramble it, and all of a sudden it's like a new scramble system. And I'm like, oh, my God, I've got advertising all over. I've advertised in the Reveille, the newspaper. So I wind up contacting Don King Productions, and I'm like, look, guys, I'm in trouble. I've advertised this thing all over. My campus bar is showing this. I said, is there any way that you can hook me up? So Don King's third-hand man goes, I'll do it, but you got to send me money Western Union. I'll give you the descrambler. Kid you not, sent this guy $300 Western Union. I was the only bar anywhere in the South that had the Tyson Spinks fight. We're packed in my place. And I literally am going to the bank to the night deposit drop with 3 big bags stuffed of hundreds and 20s, right? I come back. They're sending a TV crew to interview how did Duffy's Tavern get the Tyson Spinks fight. And as they're pulling up, I'm going to the night drop. I kid you not, 25 minutes after my girlfriend and I come back from the night drop, my entire parking lot, which was filled to the gills, is now empty. Now, I know what happened. The fire marshal has been sitting at home, and he and his wife is in curlers next to him, and he sees the television commercial, and he's now come down and shut me down. And on Monday morning, I'm going to have 800 people looking for their $15 to get back. When I walked in, and my manager, who is smoking a cigar on the beer box, feet up, both no-nos behind the bar, and I'm like, Danny, what are you doing? Where is everybody? He goes, Doc, we were down to 4 hot Tecatis and fish sticks. That's all we had left in the place to be able to sell. He goes, if Tyson wouldn't have dropped that bomb in 91 seconds, they were going to riot. Luckiest thing that ever happened.
Well, Frank, that seems to run in your history because after the Derby, there were 6 hungry men in a rented vehicle looking for something to eat.
Sounds like a Taco Bell
One of
moment.
our more vocal and almost violent passengers decided that we needed to go to the Kentucky Fried Chicken,
KFC still open?
and we were getting buckets. So, long story short, it seemed to be a scene from Star Wars
It was
inside of
funny.
the KFC.
It looked like the bar scene,
Yeah,
right, from Star Wars.
They were out of chicken. This is Kentucky Fried Chicken. Was out of chicken fried.
right down from the track.
We're idling in the parking lot for about 20
What did you have?
minutes.
Potato wedges? I mean, what did you?
We were desperate.
We would have done anything.
We were hungry men.
And
We would have eaten the bucket had he
And
brought
so
them out.
our buddy comes back and goes, there's no more chicken. Can you believe that? He goes, all there is roasted chicken. I don't want no roasted chicken.
No.
And I said, I
That's
saw
too healthy after the gig we were
I said,
involved in.
yeah, wait.
At that point.
God forbid we have health. And he goes, I said, well, I saw a woman just walking out with a bucket of chicken. He goes, yeah, she was offering to show something to these guys for like 3 pieces of chicken, and she did. And I saw her,
We
and it
saw her
wasn't
prance
worth
down
it.
the street with some chicken.
Looked like Porky Pig with the feet
I
working.
think they paid her to go away. Here. There's 2 thighs and a.
Ray,
half a breast.
Who would be the performer or the athlete that you'd like to see come back?
Oh goodness. Come back? You mean in other words they're dead or they're just inactive?
No, they're inactive. Or I'll even give you dead. I'll
Mariano Rivera.
Yeah.
I think he can still come out, break a few bats, and show these guys about this launch speed and velocity nonsense that if you can't hit it, you
Yeah.
got no launch speed.
You ain't got no
You
velocity.
got nothing.
He had a great cutter. He had a great
Cutter
cutter.
when it's amazing.
Amazing.
If you ever go YouTube, 2 things. Look at his highlights of breaking bats. They're compiled. But more importantly is his All-Star game, last All-Star game where everybody comes off the field.
Yes.
He comes out on his own. He's on the mound, and he doesn't know what's going on. There's nobody, just him and the catcher. And then both teams are on tipping their hats
That's so
out
cool.
of their dugouts, and he's crying. And I've seen him in some interviews, one of the most humble, a man of deep faith, humble person of his skill set that you'll ever see. And he was asked about Enter the Sandman. Is that
Yeah,
the name
that's
of
the song, yeah.
He's like, I don't know anything about it.
I have no idea.
I don't even know. I don't know what it means. I don't know what it's about.
Pitching for the Yankees, Mariano Rivera.
The great voice.
Rivera.
Yeah.
My guy, Nolan Ryan, to me, just was the epitome of the 1960s, late 60s, 1970s, when I fell in love with baseball. Now, my team was the Reds. I loved the Big Red Machine. Johnny Bench was my idol. I was a catcher. I played a lot of years. But Nolan Ryan, when I think of Old Man Strong, and now that I'm 58, that's all I got left is Old Man Strong. My kid is 6'5", and he looks at me, and
He's
I
a
lose
big boy.
Yeah, I lose a pint of blood. But that Old Man Strong and what he did to Robin Ventura on that mound when Robin Ventura thought he was going to come out after the old man buzzed him. And I'm telling you, those old cartoons when the guy's got he's been hit on the head a couple times with the knuckles and the bumps start rising up and the Tweety birds are going around. That was Robin Ventura with old man Nolan Ryan. I would love to see a pitcher like that. That type of Bob Gibson, Nolan Ryan, just an overbearing pitcher that if you screwed your feet in, you screwed your cleats in, you better be ready to unscrew them.
Don Drysdale.
Yeah, Big
Sudden
D.
Sam
Big D,
McDowell.
yeah, double D.
Tom
It's
Seaver.
amazing you bring him up because CC Sabathia, he just broke 3,000
Yep.
strikeouts. And you start thinking of Nolan Ryan with 5,000 plus strikeouts that he'd have to play till CC'd have to play till he's 60 to get to 5,000 strikeouts.
And how sad I saw that about Tom Seaver.
Yes.
Mr. Met, man. And again, played for the Reds as well during their
Right.
run.
And the White Sox. I
Absolutely,
believe, right?
yeah, absolutely.
I think he threw his no-hitter with the White Sox, if I
Yeah.
remember finally. He had 5 or 6 one-hitters with the Mets.
Seaver did.
It was
Yeah.
just one of those just like, how can he not get it? It was so crazy. Of course, he had total complete games and a great record and in control of the game, but
And of course, the king of the no hitters was Nolan
Is
Ryan.
CeCe a Hall of Famer in your mind? Is
Yes,
he all-
yes.
at
I think
3,000?
He's got the numbers.
Is it because of the 3,000 strikeouts? Does that automatically get
innings
you in?
pitched? I think yes. I think that's like 500 home runs.
And
if you're not on the juice or corking your bat.
and nowadays, innings pitched, man,
he's a horse.
that's incredible. I
He's
mean,
a
you know,
horse.
when you can go to the post, 300 innings. I mean, that's huge.
Just going back to Rivera, there's a lot of great relievers in the middle of June in Milwaukee on a Wednesday.
Milwaukee.
Mariano was a great reliever in the fall.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, that's really against the best teams,
There's
against
something-
playoff teams.
There's
yeah.
something about the Yankees.
Pinstripes, baby.
They always kick it up in October.
I
Mr.
think-
October.
But compared to Reggie Jackson, Mariano is someone that if you could tell your kid, who do you want to
Yeah.
be like, that's who you want to be like.
Yeah. Wouldn't necessarily be Reggie Barr.
No. Although, again, also a guy who has sort of had that second life, who is
Yeah,
really all of
absolutely.
a sudden become gregarious and friendly
Correct.
and wants to talk about baseball. And, it's like Mickey Mantle on his deathbed. Mickey, and I'm a Mickey Mantle fan, he was not a nice person. He was a kind of a
Mickey
mean
Mantle
guy.
is not a nice person.
Oh, no, that's true. He was a sour.
He was kind of a mean drunk.
He was kind
from
of
what
a
I heard,
mean
yeah.
drunk. Yep, a bad guy. Not a bad guy who can commit crimes, but not a friendly guy. And
He kind of had a deathbed
on his
moment.
deathbed,
Yeah, he
yes,
really did.
absolutely. He had it. Two things. He's famous for that quote: "If I knew I had lived this long, I would have taken better care of myself," which Mark Twain also said. But he also said, "I wish I wasn't such a jerk." He was a jerk, and he got away with it.
It was. I remember it very well. My mom and he were sick at the exact same time, and I remember sitting in her hospital room, watching the Mickey Mantle funeral, and of course, I was being a sports fan. I actually didn't realize how insensitive it was to her, and as I was sitting there, you literally could see the outpouring of love that people had for a guy that was, their idol. I mean, think about Billy Crystal, in all the different movies, how he talks about being a young kid in New
Yep,
York.
yep.
I mean, that was your age group.
But what about The Bronx Tale?
Oh yeah,
Great-
absolutely.
Great movie.
Great movie.
Does Mickey Mantle care about you? He does not care about you.
Not like Lorenzo
great.
the bus
That's
driver,
right.
baby.
He's
right.
great in that movie.
What a movie. What a fantastic movie.
You're listening to The Good Life here at the beautiful Palm Restaurant.
Beautiful.
Again, we love being here. The chicken parmesan is phenomenal. I mean, there's not much that gets me off of a steak, but the chicken parm here is just off the charts. Again, great place to come and sit, meet people. In fact, we were here last year when Ronald Acuna hit that first home
That's
run
right.
up in the left field. We were sitting there right there watching his first day. As we go to our dinner break, I want you guys to think, what was the odd jobs that you did as a kid that formed your business mindset, your work ethic, to be the business people that you are today, that allowed you to be able to sit here and order a $65 steak and $20 bourbons?
And not have any money in our pocket when we do it.
Wow, by the way, that's an old Lee Trevino. He goes, the guys that are playing for the prize money on TV, that's not tough. He goes, when you're sitting over a $5 Nassau and you only got $2 in your pocket,
That's right.
that's rough. All right, guys, come on back to the Good Life with Ray Giudice, Ted Jenkin, and Frank Duffy. We'll be back in a moment.
You've built a name for yourself. So has he. You know the best in your profession. So does he. Ray Giudice, 30 years in practice, Emory Law. From divorce to contract law and, DUI, he can put that legal team together for you. 404-964-4185.
Bringing us back here to the Good Life I'm Frank Duffy, the owner of Duffy Realty. I'm sitting here with Ted Jenkin, CEO and founder of Oxygen Financial, and Ray Giudice of Giudice Law. And right before we went to have those awesome steak dinners we just had, we were talking about jobs that we did when we were younger, when we were growing up, cutting our teeth. Hustling is the word I like to put it. We were out there hustling. Can you remember jobs that you did when you were first starting out, and what did that teach you to get the work ethic that you have today?
Well, unlike today, Frank, where I act as a human ATM machine for my kids. When I was younger, it wasn't like the days today where you have these annoying leaf blowing guys that blow leaves, and I didn't even know, they don't even bag them. They just blow them against the wall and they sit there. I would go door to door, and during the fall, after the leaves came down, I would knock on everybody's door and I would say, hey, for 50 cents a bag, I'll rake the leaves, I'll put them in the bags, and I'll take them off your lawn. And people would hire me.
Absolutely.
And I'll tell you what, that money is the money that let my friends and me go play at the game room, eat at the pizza parlor, and go out and have a good time.
And I think back, I did pretty much the same thing. Ours wasn't so much leaves where I was in New Orleans. It was cutting grass on what felt like the surface of the sun. It was just so hot on July days, right? But I'll never forget walking up and down my neighborhood, knocking on the door. It's where I got my sales ability.
That's right.
My first sales ability. And I remember Mr. Brumfield going, kid, you're shorting yourself. Instead of $10, I'm giving you $12, but you got to edge. So you got to learn from a very young position what hard work was, what it took to actually get the business, and how you had to keep your clients happy.
Yeah, I in my senior year of high school, I was driving a 22-foot refrigerated box truck into the Lower East Side of New York to the Fulton Fish Market down on Pier 27 for a commercial fish market. 3 nights a week, get down there at midnight with all the...
That was a tough gig.
It was a tough gig, baby. It was before Giuliani cleaned up the
Correct.
Lower East Side. Here I am, skinny, scrawny, redheaded kid with $10,000 in cash buying the fish for the market. I learned how to lift a box that weighed more than me with a hook. There was a lot of guys that were walking on canes because of workers' comp injuries and forklift injuries, but it toughened me.
Yeah.
I wasn't tough, but it toughened me. And also, I think I learned the skills of, just like as a lawyer, walking into a courtroom where you don't know anybody, going up against an opposing counsel who you don't know or a judge that you don't know. I was like on planet Claire,
Yeah.
Here's the Fulton Fish Market, been there since, the 1870s.
Oh, yeah. The ironclads were sitting out there, man.
Wharf rats as big as, cats and guys that had guns. I mean, this was a tough place. It was run by the mafia.
Yeah,
Do not think it was not. It was. Mm-hmm. And when I drove the truck in there at about 2 a.m., I handed a guy named Vinny an envelope of cash. And he parked the truck and he protected the truck. Absolutely. And I saw trucks that weren't protected get unloaded as they were moving, okay? I learned how to deal with cash because cash doesn't leave a trail, and the IRS don't know nothing about this.
They don't know nothing.
Don't know nothing.
Nothing.
And realistically, aside from the law license that I had to get and pass, the bar, I was ready to go. I could have practiced law right then and there. I had all the skills.
I think there's nothing better than teaching your kid to go door to door to sell something, to sell anything, because it's the fear of knocking on the door and who's going to come out.
And no
and you get that
offense,
initial
not
sales
Girl
pitch.
Scout cookies to your family's friends.
Yeah.
Go to somebody you don't know.
No shills.
Yeah.
Hey, look, I sold my neighbor some horrible wrapping paper for about 8 years. I don't know what the hell they did with it, but every year I was like, it's me, little Teddy, buy some wrapping paper, please. They bought a lot of crappy wrapping paper for me.
Mrs. Birnbaum, no, you need the Christmas paper, I promise you. I remember growing up, I did a lot in New Orleans. There's bars on every street corner, right? And I'll never forget, one of my first jobs, besides working at Blimpie and cleaning out the nasty, the nasty produce, cooler with the shredded lettuce that had been in there probably for about 4 months, right? That'll cure you. But I was in the bar business, and it was really cool. I actually had my first business was called Sound Sensation. I would spin records, and instead of working as an employee for the bar, I would make them hire me as an independent contractor. I made more money that way, right? I was my own business, right?
Frank, whenever you tell me your New Orleans stories, I think of one of my favorite books, Confederacy of Dunces.
Yeah.
And I think of Ignatius O'Reilly and you know, with your number 2 pencil and your
my
big Chief Indian
tablet.
and Miss Trixie over at the plant. And if anybody hasn't read that
Great book.
And the story of that book, is it John Kennedy O'Toole? Do I have the right author?
John Kennedy Toole, yep.
He was a very young man when he wrote it, 17, 18, 19.
Correct.
He goes to Tulane.
Correct.
He commits suicide in his freshman year.
Well, it was actually later. It was a little bit later in life.
All right. But he was still a young man.
Very much,
early
yeah.
20s. His English professor and his mother find the handwritten transcript of the book, correct, in his closet.
She peddles it
All right.
for 10 years.
Is that right?
Goes to the last press that she hasn't bugged in
Penguin,
Louisiana.
I think, was it?
Louisiana State University, my LSU alma mater. She went, and it was because she actually handed it to, I think, Walker Percy, who I think we were having a discussion about him not too long ago, handed it to him, and he read it. And it was one of those types of things where, you know, and I write stage plays and screenplays. I've been doing that for a couple of years. When you tell somebody, I'd like for you to read my stage play, it'll clear out a room like nobody's business, right? You know,
I almost jumped out of the car going up to Kentucky.
But I was kind. I didn't.
Well, no, you were going 80 miles an hour. I didn't want to take a chance.
Yeah, I know enough not to actually tell people what they are. Like I joked with Ray, I said, I'll never tell people what my stage play is, but I will leave 4 tickets for you at the box office when it gets produced. But it was you know, incredible. So, you know, he was presented with this manuscript that people had turned down for 10 years, right? And this woman's quest. The mother of a son who committed suicide, and she's the one that stumbled on it in the closet.
Yeah.
And when he read it, he said it was one of those things where, yes, I was going to read a page so that I could just tell this woman, sorry, I see these all the time. And he said when he read the first page, he had to read the second. The second was a chapter. He finished it in 2 days, and he said, this is one of the most brilliant pieces of literature I've ever read. And because of his connections, again, we're talking about the good life. Ain't what you know, brother, sometimes who you know, Pally. And what he did was he went up to the press at LSU, and they wound up getting it published. And they won a Pulitzer Prize.
Posthumously
awarded within 9 months of it being published.
Fantastic book.
And by the way, one of your typical New Orleans characters, and how he rotates in the orb of other characters. It's a fabulous
and the
read.
Wheel of Fortuna, which is it really epitomizes what life is
about. Myrna Minkoff and the and the liberals.
So if you haven't read it, probably want to crack. Read it. It's a game changer. What are those hot dogs called that he?
The Lucky Dogs are what they are now. What was it called? It was something dogs, but it was 12 inches of pure pleasure. Good advertising.
Great story.
But you know when you're young and you're doing jobs, right? It just teaches you, and all of a sudden, you know, from doing your work in the bar, I realized, you know what? There's a lot of money to be made out there, and it whets your appetite. Probably no different than when you were going into law, and when you were doing financial services and doing, as an initial stockbroker with American Express. You all of a sudden look and like, oh my God, I didn't know there was this much money out there.
And
all I got to do is have hungry.
And the skill set is the same.
Absolutely.
You got to show up on time.
Yep.
You got to have your sneakers laced.
Correct.
You got to be ready to go.
Correct.
Have your equipment, whatever it is, your rake, your hose, your fish hook. And you know what? Don't give up. I talked to Frank. We met a guy,
in
young
Kentucky.
man.
Yep.
We were at Binion's at the casino,
Steakhouse,
having a steak.
Nice.
Yeah, I know. It's not bad being us.
That's what we do.
And a young man. This was not the server, not the waiter, but sort of the bring the water.
Yeah, busboy.
And this kid is on it.
He is.
And he's smiling, and he's courteous. And Frank
he's
and
engaging.
And we just grabbed him and said, "Talk to us. What are you doing?" "I'm in school. I'm taking 3 classes. I'm living at home. I'm working here." And we're like, we
really encouraged him. I mean, we spent.
Well,
time
I hope we
with him.
did.
Yeah,
I hope we did.
Yeah, I think
and
we
it's
did.
like, go for it, man. Pedal to the metal. Don't stop. Don't let anybody tell you can't do it, because he had it. I hope it works for him, but he had that spark, didn't he?
Yeah, he did.
We would have hired him.
Yeah.
I promise you, we would have hired him on the spot if we had a job for him.
Yeah, sharp young man.
Yeah.
And it was good to see, right? And
It's the best kind to find.
And the best thing was he was actually willing to listen to us. So here's a couple old guys having, a $150 meal, good steaks, good drinks, walking down from the casino, getting ready to go sit in $1,000 seats at in Churchill Downs. You don't have to be a brain surgeon. You follow what you see the success in front of you. And if you're fortunate to run into that circle, if you have, Tony Robbins, a guy that I've learned a lot from, says proximity is power. You just have to be open to what you find from that proximity.
And follow the
he
light.
was, yeah.
Follow the light. Go for it. Or at least take it in, swill it around in your mouth, maybe spit it out, maybe retain some.
Do the taste test.
Right.
Absolutely. Don't listen to what I got to say. You got to filter it for yourself.
And just like our guy Charles, who took great care of us for 2 days, again, here he is. And he was not a young man now.
No.
He's hustling.
He was hustling.
That man's on his feet
He was
for 12 hours
He
a
tracked
day.
us down like a bloodhound. Where are those crazy guys? I'm going to go hang out over there. Well, it's kind of funny. Speaking of the Derby, we got a good buddy of mine. Actually, he's a horse owner. In fact, we've been kind of kibitzing back and forth about whether we're going to get into the horse business. And I told him, I said, look, my financial advisor, Ted Jenkin, would be smart enough to know anything I put in that, I might as well just go throw it out the window. But if I want to have fun, that's something we can do. But it was so funny. Every year before we go to the Derby, I go with my buddies from Dallas, these attorneys, and he watches the movie Let It Ride every year. And it was this great campy movie from the early 80s with Richard Dreyfuss and David Johansen, who was Buster Poindexter, who was on Saturday Night Live one time with the hot. He talks like this. I'm betting on the 2 horse. His horse's name is the name of my cat. By the way,
sounded a little Steak Shapiro there.
No. Aha! What are you talking about? That's steaky, baby. I know how to do steaky. What are you talking about? No, but so he watches this movie every year, right? And it's his anthem about a guy that's at the track that has an awesome day. So Ray and I, we were sitting there just, again, probably over our 10th, 11th, 12th julep, and we started talking about how many funny, iconic movies there was in our past, like Animal House or Trading Places, which, by the way, I don't know if y'all saw, Coming to America, they're about to do the remake of Coming to a sequel to it. How cool
Arsenio
was
Hall's
that?
coming back.
Put the machines back on, Mortimer. Screw him.
Looking good, Billy Ray.
Feeling good, Lewis.
And we also talked about both Blazing Saddles
Oh, my God.
and
Great
Young
movie.
Frankenstein.
That's a great
Put
Which
movie.
is
the
just
candle back. And by the way, Terry
such a
Garr,
well-made movie.
Terry Garr was actually in this movie, Let It Ride.
Oh, is that right?
Wasn't she the darling of the early 80s movies?
Letterman had her on 150 times.
There was some chemistry there.
Oh, there was some.
Letterman had a little
I was very
pent-up
jealous.
chemistry.
Very
By the
jealous.
way, she was also in another great movie with Michael Keaton, Mr. Mom.
Mr. Mom was a great
What
movie.
what a great movie that was.
How about Night Shift? That was Henry Winkler and Michael Keaton.
That's right.
you
That's
know?
right. That's right.
He puts the word prostitution on the board. He's like, what are we talking about here? Shun. He's like, what does that leave us with?
Pro,
much.
it's positive.
Boom.
He was the guy that said, put the mayonnaise in the tuna fish can. Chuck. I have an idea.
Sadly, though, or maybe better for our culture, Blazing Saddles and Animal House could not be made
Oh,
today.
no way.
No,
Yeah.
no.
Not be made today.
They would
Yeah.
be vilified.
vilified. Yep.
Actually, as good as the comedians were in the 80s, the difference is a lot of the 80s movies had dialogue to it. That's why you remember
Great
a lot
writer.
of what happened, because they had liners. Everything today is action, guns.
Exploding.
But I love the early Rodney movies, I will tell you.
Oh, my hero.
Easy Money is one of
Oh,
my
yeah,
favorite ones.
absolutely.
With Joe Pesci's in it.
He's a mother.
Yeah. What she says to him, she says, you are an awful, disgusting, evil man. And he says, yeah, you were the inspiration for twin beds. And,
Hey, Bobby Bunny. Oh, he lost a few carrots.
But the thing about Rodney, talk about a guy who
Oh,
was
yeah.
out of the business, selling aluminum siding.
Correct. 10 man.
right. Started comedy at 40, right? Somewhere in that age.
Right? And just worked it and worked it. And if you watch him with Carson,
Oh, God.
and you
Aren't
could
those
YouTube
great?
it, and they're two geniuses. and Carson knows that he is going to be the straight man. This is his
Yeah.
job
Yep.
to have the clean palate for the genius, Rodney. And they know their roles, and it's like a dance, a kabuki dance. I mean, they totally get it. And of course, Rodney every once in a while will stop in the middle of his act and say, "Hey, I'm just working it out on the road," you know. If a joke flops, you know.
You don't mind, Johnny? I'm gonna take a breath.
He'll look up and he'll tap the microphone. Is this thing on? You know. But a genius. And he was the guy that so many comedians, Seinfeld, and you just go down the list, said he gave us a shot.
Yeah. At Dangerfields.
You could go down to Dangerfields in Manhattan, and he'd give you 10 minutes at the end of the night when there were 9 drunks, but you had a mic, he gave you a plate of spaghetti, and you worked on your act.
Go kill it, kid. Go kill it. That's
There
what
aren't
he
the
did.
comedy clubs. There's not that many here in Atlanta
No.
that really, you think about it now, it's just the Punchline and the Laughing Skull.
Yeah.
And there's not that many.
Yeah, you know, you stop to think about all the comics that we've seen now. You know, I'm 58. Ray's what, 60?
61 in July,
Yeah,
baby.
61 in July. Ted, you're what, 51 now?
youngster.
50?
No, I'm going to be 50 in August.
Oh, I thought you already had it already. I thought you were
no,
turning 50
no,
already.
in August.
Well, I don't want to age you too early. Well, all of us that were in that growing up in essence in the 80s when we were in our 20s, we saw some incredible comedy, right?
Oh.
And most of them, like Ray says, they owe it to the comedians that came before. In fact, I was going to ask you guys, you know, we talk a lot, you know, our show about the good life, you know, we have Sinatra on and we have Sammy and Dino. You know, life in the 50s and 60s was just a cool life. I mean,
It had to be remarkable.
It was ring-a-ding-ding, baby. It was cool, right? Think of the comedy teams that you had in the 1950s. How incredible they were, right? I mean, Martin and Lewis, you know, you talk about some of the most popular entertainers in the world. For about a 4-year run there, they were the most popular thing going. I mean, there was nothing in Hollywood that matched what they were doing on the road.
And not only on the screen, but they would take that show to Vegas
Oh, absolutely.
and just kill it.
New York,
Just
Radio
kill
City
it.
Music
Yep,
Hall. Some of the
absolutely.
pictures of them hanging out of one of the, the downtown hotels in New York. They said your cops didn't know what to do. There was traffic blocked on every street.
Well, you know who started and was great then, and he was really, his career never stopped. And I still think one of the most underrated comics of all time was Don Rickles.
oh, absolutely.
Because
man.
Rickles would just destroy people.
Dun, 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 dun.
He would destroy people.
What was the war movie that he's in?
Oh,
Kelly's Heroes. Kelly's
Yeah.
was fantastic.
His name is crap. Dice game. Yeah, crap game. Crap game. And he's telling Oddball. He goes, "Come on, let's go make a deal. The German in the tank. He might be a Republican." No, he was great, and I'll tell you, he was another one of Carson's favorites. Carson loved when Rickles
absolutely.
came on
Absolutely.
because most people would kiss Carson's ass, and Rickles
He
would be up
wouldn't.
there,
He
and he
wouldn't.
would not. You
No,
know,
no.
he would not mess with him.
Well, I grew up in New York where Carson was live,
Oh yeah,
black and white TV, from 11 to 1:30.
90
It was a
minutes.
1
Is that
and a
how
half
long
hour
the show was?
90 minutes
Yes.
live. Yeah,
Now,
first off.
the
Wow.
key was to make it to the last 20 minutes because that's when Carson had the real screwballs come out. Either people who were going to kind of work blue, right on the edge, or some nut from Omaha who had the largest soap carving
Yeah,
collection, or the
I remember the old broad that had the potato chip that looked like Lincoln.
That's right,
And then,
right.
and then Carson pretended like he ate it.
That's when he. Or Ed, who's the guy with the tomahawk?
Ed Ames, when
Ames.
he goes, "I didn't even know you were Jewish," when he hit him right in the crotch. and by the way, the comedic genius of Carson, if you ever look at
The
that
mighty
YouTube
Carson
video.
art players.
Well, but going back to Ed Ames, when Ed Ames he was Mingo from the old Daniel. My wife says that the stuff that you have in your head that doesn't make me money is just it's mind blowing. But Ed Ames was Mingo to Fess Parker's Daniel Boone, which was a highly successful show in the 50s, early 60s, right? So they had Mingo on there, and Mingo was telling them how he was taught by a person that throws hatchets how to do it on set. So they set up this fakakta-looking cowboy,
Outline.
outline.
Right.
And so Mingo let fly on the first hatchet. Well, it caught the cowboy right in the crotch. And to Carson's claim, Ed Ames was shocked. He was embarrassed. He ran over to take it out, and Carson grabbed him by the arm and goes, "That's TV gold. Don't go nowhere." And that's when he dropped the line. I didn't even know you were Jewish. A little circumcision on national television.
It was amazing. What a genius.
Brisk to the stars.
But also not a mean guy, but not a happy guy.
Yeah, Carson wasn't.
Carson,
Very
no,
lonely
very
man.
private guy.
Yeah.
Very private guy.
Yep.
All those years with Ed and who was the band
Doc
leader?
Severinsen.
Doc Severinsen. They will say, we never went to his house.
Yeah.
We never had Christmas with him. We never had nothing. He went home. He played tennis. He had a very small circle of friends, and died.
Mostly
of,
wives named Joanna.
Died kind of a lonely guy.
He's married 4 times.
Fourth, I think it was, yeah.
Yeah, and died of emphysema.
Yeah,
Lifetime
sure did.
smoker. Heavy smoker.
Yeah.
And what a shame. What a genius.
But what
died young.
What a talented
Oh, my goodness.
guy. I mean,
Oh, he
I just-
blows away the
Yeah,
late
the-
night
the
host.
new
He could
guys,
dance.
yeah.
He could sing. He started as a magician.
That's right. That's right.
He taught himself
The
how
great,
to do
the
magic.
great Carsini or something
and that
like that.
led into
Yeah.
Karnak, the magician,
Magic,
man.
yeah, right.
Sealed and sealed Hellman's mayonnaise
What is
jar.
an unclean yak?
Well, you've had silence many times, oh Karnak.
But think about our generation a little bit, but our parents' generation who grew up or aged watching Carson
Oh,
at night
yeah.
through their feet, essentially.
absolutely.
4 feet in the bed, and there's Carson. Da, 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 da,
And that's
it
what
was
Bette
theme
Midler,
song.
Bette Midler said. She goes, "I'm gonna have to be in bed with my husband now." When she signed off with him. Well, think of all the great comedy teams that were back there. Abbott and Costello, and Ray, you and I were talking on the drive back. How awesome the Sid Caesar, the show of shows, and all of his players were.
Imogene Coco.
Yeah, I mean, just incredible. And to Ted, to your point, they used to have creative writing. It wasn't, Ron and I just saw that movie recently, Long Shot. It was the most bizarre, unfunny. It wasn't creative.
Oh, it's terrible.
It was. I was like, where are the writers?
I think not only
that's
the
what's
writing,
missing.
but if you watch those old shows with the pros, they hit their
The timing.
mark.
Yeah,
It's
timing,
that
yeah.
comic timing, the pause, the 2 count, the sigh, the eye roll. You think they made it up? No, they had done it 1,000 times before the camera was
Could
on
you
them.
imagine in today's age, there's no variety of shows in the last 20 years that have been successful. And when you think about guys like Harvey Korman and Tim
my
Conway
God.
and the stuff that they do was so
The whole group from
and
laughing.
live,
I
yeah.
mean,
live, too.
insane,
How about when Corman and Conway would be doing it? Most of everything they did was just to crack up the other.
yeah.
If the audience had a laugh out of it, that was great. They just wanted to break each other up.
Carol Burnett, a genius,
Yeah.
who was her
Genius.
mentor, Lucille Ball.
Yeah,
She says
Mrs. Wiggins.
Mrs. the Tugboat, Mrs. the Wiggins.
The best is when Tim Conway would be a dentist and
Oh, yeah, you
Yes,
saw that when
yes.
he gave her the
Novocaine
Novocaine.
himself,
Great
and
scene.
how he would do that, and Harvey Korman could not stop laughing.
But I liked Harvey Korman as the big German governor. What do you want here? With the new news are going.
And of course,
left
Harvey
right.
Korman in Blazing Saddles.
Oh.
Just absolutely a genius role.
Hedy Lamar. We don't need a lawsuit.
Take this down. I want Mormons and Methodists.
But that's the problem for real, is that even when John Hughes did all of his films, I mean, Breakfast Club and you could remember lines from there, but
Yeah.
I'm not saying that movies today like
Yeah.
The
But on the
Avengers
whole-
aren't good movies.
on
but
the
they're-
whole.
it's not like the movies. You're not going to remember a line from that movie.
I also think one of the things that used to happen was what we would consider to be serious actors and actresses would step out of character to be in either the variety shows,
Oh,
do
yeah.
something
Oh, yeah.
goofy,
Oh.
take a pie in the face, or be a cameo in one of these movies.
Correct.
And just kill it. Quick story, Jerry Lewis. A phenomenal Jerry Lewis movie where he's a serious player is The King of Comedy.
Great movie.
Where De Niro
Yep.
plays the comic.
Yep.
And it's a total role reversal. And that is a very dark movie. Remind me who the female is in that.
Oh, Sandra Bernhardt.
Sandra Bernhardt, and it was not good much,
Yeah.
but she crushed it in that.
What was the name? Pumpkin?
Pumpkin, yes.
Yeah,
The
oh my
Great
God.
Pumpkin.
By the way, I'm pretty sure it was a Marty Scorsese movie.
Yes.
It was really one of his first, and it really set the tone for the movies that he brought up after, which I think was about the time that he was doing Taxi Driver. It was right about that
Are you
time.
talking to me?
Talking to me?
You talking to me?
You talking to me? You talking to me? You talking to me? You're
No.
listening to The Good Life with Ted Jenkin and Ray Giudice and Frank Duffy here at the beautiful Palm Restaurant in downtown Buckhead, Atlanta. Again, just talking guys things, guys talk something sitting around, just unapologetically talking about things that, well, frankly, interest us in one of the last bastions that we've got, which is a good old-fashioned, old-school steakhouse.
I got to tell you guys, you were speaking of Cameo. I don't know if you've seen today, but now they actually have an app called Cameo. And it's really pretty cool because basically what it is that if you wanted to give a gift to somebody, the celebrities are on there and
Yeah.
they'll actually do a live video.
I saw that.
For somebody's graduation, somebody's birthday, somebody's bar mitzvah. And you can spend anywhere from $50 all the way to probably $1,000.
I hear Pauly Shore is paying you.
Yeah, he probably should. But I actually did it. I did it. I tried it. Now,
Wow, that's so cool.
oddly enough, Snoop Dogg cost $4.20 on there. I wonder why. But
smoke weed every day.
I did one for my wife Jenna. She wasn't feeling
that's
well.
cool.
She
That's
watches
neat.
14 lame Home and Garden TV shows. And I basically sent her one, and it worked. It was pretty cool.
Oh, that's cool.
It's
That's
$59.
neat.
So, I think about giving gifts sometimes. You don't know what to give. That's a pretty cool gift to give something, a little video, and send it to your kids or your wife.
And since it's tape, Clark gets the gift that keeps on giving. Well, that brings us to the time of our show when we have what we call the Knucklehead Report. Who has done what to get themselves in legal trouble? And we have the expert around Atlanta, Mr. Wolf, I call him, the guy that's going to get you out of trouble if you have a problem, Ray Giudice.
Thank you. I still think that our leading knucklehead is Robert Kraft, multimillionaire, maybe a billionaire, owner of maybe next to the New York Yankees, the most successful, certainly in the last 20 years, successful football, professional sports franchise in America, who could probably meet a very nice person at a social
I think he
at
could
the
get,
Palm at
I
the
think,
bar.
I think he could hit the divorcee line pretty good.
Have a date and maybe have exchange of physical encounter by consent amongst adults, who goes to a pretty seedy, what is it, the Orchid Spa or something?
Can I help you out, Mr. Kraft?
The Orchids
And,
of Asia.
Orchids of Asia, and looks at the menu. He'll have one from column A, two from column B.
There
Most importantly, one from column C.
You need to remove a towel now. Remove a towel now.
And winds up in not only just a legal problem. Well, look, at the end of the
It's an
day,
embarrassing
it's
problem.
embarrassing. I mean, this is, first of all, it's a misdemeanor. It's not a felony. These are not jail.
At first, they
prison
tried
cases.
to do something.
Yes.
about sex
Now
trafficking, and
let's
that
talk
dropped.
about that. I mean, here's what happens. Not every time, but sometimes prosecutors overcharge
Yes.
for negotiations.
A little zealot.
Maybe they misread the facts, and
Or
the
maybe they're a little starstruck.
or maybe
get
they
somebody in the
wanted to
net.
get a sneak and peek warrant to place these cameras into the spa and allege that human
Correct.
trafficking was going on. Well, lo and behold, there is no human
Because
trafficking.
they probably wouldn't have got it without something
That is
like that.
most likely correct. And so some poor magistrate judge at 8 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday, here comes the detective Cupcake and says, "Judge, there's human trafficking going on. We need to stop it. I need a sneak and peek warrant," which is probably the absolute push on our constitutional rights
Oh,
right
yeah.
up to the wall.
That's right up
to
against
be able
the-
to go
yeah.
into our property unannounced or under surreptitious methods by I'm the cable guy or
The membrane is
plumber,
stretching on that
and
one.
putting a camera in our business or our home. So some magistrate judge got all nervous, granted this sneak and peek warrant, and thus we have this video, which has been challenged by his lawyers And now 2 separate judges have said, we're not releasing this video. Florida has really strange pretrial discovery rules in criminal cases that does not exist in most of our country. That if you remember any of the big crazy cases that come out of Florida, Haley Cummings or the young lady that allegedly duct taped her child and killed him.
Yep.
All this, the statements are coming out, videos coming out before trial. It's tampering with the jury. Doesn't
I don't know how
happen
you
in
can
Georgia.
see the jury.
Doesn't happen in Georgia as a rule. So he said, no, you can't release this. This is going to impact a fair trial for Mr. Kraft, and there's 23 or 24 other individuals charged. So that's been a victory for him. I still think at the end of the day, this is going to get resolved in some type of a pretrial diversion.
What's that conversation like when Bobby sits down with his attorney for the first time? And they say it's like, Bobby, did you have the full release?
Here's what you got to do on these kind of cases. The client has his or her story. You let them tell their story. You nod knowingly. You take just a few notes. Don't take too many notes. That makes clients concerned. Why are you writing
They
that
starting
down?
to sweat.
Yep. Just listen. You take off your glasses. You stroke your chin. You nod approvingly. You ask a couple questions. You let the story get out. Next meeting, you have some facts, and you ask some pointed questions. You start to steer where this is going to go.
Bobby, we're going to be here a while. Go down and get some Dunkin' Donuts for
that's
us.
right. We got work to do.
Did you get the full release or what? I need to know.
No. Don't ask that first. That's not the way to bring this.
That's a real Whitey Bulger.
When I was a baby lawyer, I worked for a great lawyer who said, listen, running a law firm and a law practice is like running a kitchen in a busy restaurant. Some things you got to put in a microwave and cook quick. Some things you got to put in a crock pot and let the slow heat take the meat off the bones. Okay, and that's how you do this with Mr. Kraft. He's used to having his way. He's used to lawyers doing what he tells them to do. Except he needs to understand that in this case, he's not in control. He can excuse my language. Did you catch that? He can screw it up by saying, "I want to do it my way." Because he's got a real good team of lawyers.
I did hear his new yacht is going to be called the Left Side of the Menu. You're listening to the Good Life with Frank Duffy, Ray Giudice, and Ted Jenkin. Now, I hear that music. When we get back from the break, what we're going to be talking about is something that everyone wants to do, and that's make money. But what we want to do is we want to let you know some ways that you might be able to make money while you sleep. How cool would that be? Come on back to The Good Life.
Did you just receive a bonus, a windfall, or an inheritance, and you're worried about making a tax mistake? Will you owe capital gains tax? Should you be letting the money sit in cash? What if you're inheriting IRA accounts? Go to oxygenfinancial.net to get our free guide, 5 money moves to make when you get a windfall. We can help you make smarter decisions with your money. Go to oxygenfinancial.net right now to get our free guide on bonuses, windfalls, and inheritances. Go to oxygenfinancial.net today.
You're listening to The Good Life. Ted Jenkin with Oxygen Financial, Ray Giudice of Giudice Law, and I'm Frank Duffy with Duffy Realty. We were talking about something that everyone loves to do. Nobody doesn't like to make money. But how do you make money when you're not having to just put your blood, sweat, and tears in it? How do you make money when you sleep? How do you do it passively? And you've got some great ideas, Ted, that I want to share with folks.
Yeah, I mean, this is the whole new generation of having a side hustle, that people have their, day job, but then they're looking for other jobs and ways to make money. I actually discovered this myself when I started blogging back in 2009. So I started a blog, didn't know anything about blogging at all. Ended up going to a blogging conference with a bunch of nerds that knew nothing about finance, but they knew a lot about blogging. And I sat next to a woman named Coupon Mom, and on the right-hand side was a guy named Mr. Money Mustache. And these were 2 guys that knew everything, and a woman that knew everything and anything about affiliate marketing. And so the first thing is that if you can get a blog and get some traffic, you can get paid a ton of money to set up affiliate marketing relationships. And what that means is if you write an article, and my article is about finance, and I imagine I was teaching you about how to get the best savings account that you get on the internet, what I would do in each paragraph is to put a link that would go to the actual company, and then that company, if somebody clicks on the link and goes there and opens up an account, would pay me for an account opening. So the more traffic I have, the more that I can link people to a site, the more money I'm going to make.
Pinterest was basically built on that, almost that concept.
Absolutely. And so sometimes people say, well, I don't know what to write about. And the truth is, it really doesn't matter as long as you can get a bunch of people to read it.
Eyeballs.
You get eyeballs, you're going to get paid for traffic. And so, people see things like banner advertising where you can click links, but those little embedded links that you see in all the major newspapers. In the content, they're just blue. They're not black. And when you click them, it takes you to another site down a rabbit hole until eventually you buy something. And it's a great passive way to make money once you've built the content. Now, I took this, Frank, and I really didn't know anything about social media. But I knew there were a lot of guys in my business that didn't know anything about social media. So I created a social media online training course called the Social Media Black Book. I cold emailed every other financial planner in the entire industry, and I did something called a webinar, which is I did an online seminar, if you will. And at the end, I said, hey, do you want to spend $1,000 to buy my course? Well, in 2 years, I sold $1.7 million of those courses. You know what it cost me to maintain them? Nothing.
Not a thing.
Because once you build the course and it's on there, it's all perpetual. Yep. So eventually the courses
it's a virtual store.
They don't last forever. You have to come up with fresh new stuff. But the Social Media Black Book is one of my best-selling courses. And then after a while, I said, by the way, if you like this and you pay me $67 a month, I'll get on the phone once a month and I'll teach you some stuff. So all of a sudden, I had 270 financial advisors paying me $67 a month to basically do nothing. So that,
you're giving them insights that they don't come close to having, which is secondhand to you. You've forgotten more than what they'll ever learn, but you can share that with them. It is a good product.
What I'm saying is, if you're a guy and your expertise is anything, it doesn't matter that you're great at being a carpenter, or you're great at fixing cars, or whatever it is. Put a course together and teach other people how to do it, and you can get paid to do it.
My son, who's interested in tiny houses now, I have no interest in it, but he has interest in it, and that's exactly what a gentleman did. He put a course together. He has people come out in like 2 days. They erect a tiny house, but again, making a lot of money, and it's passive.
If you don't have that kind of skill, you have very good websites out there like Fiverr, Fiverr.
Oh, awesome! How cool is that?
And listen, if you can sketch a Trump cartoon, or you can basically do a voiceover, you can make money for doing all sorts of side hustle. Oddly enough, I'll tell you this, guys. One of the number one side hustles right now is transcribing. That there's a lot of people that do podcasts just like this, and the way that you get better rank on the internet is to actually have the written copy of the entire podcast. Well, somebody has to transcribe that crap. And you can get paid a crap load of money to go in there and transcribe it.
My dad paid my old girlfriend in 1981 to transcribe a book that he basically used to revolutionize the foundation repair business in New Orleans, called Underpinning. And his thing was, he goes, I don't want to take the chance of getting it back to the public library and somebody taking it and not having it. He actually was probably one of the first people that did that. He paid my girlfriend to actually read it on a cassette, and when he died, I actually saw all those cassettes that an old girlfriend had done for that. Isn't that cool? I mean, just
it's amazing.
There's so many ways that you can passively make money. It's insane. I mean, and especially now because technology gives you platforms that you never could have done before.
Now, in my world, practicing law here in Atlanta for going on 35 years. While I have a specialty, which is criminal defense trial work and some plaintiff's work, I get a lot of calls from clients that have totally different legal needs. They want a divorce. They want wills, probate issues, whatever. I have a network of referrals, great lawyers I either went to law school with or know and trust.
Correct.
Excellent. And quite frankly, I take a referral fee or a finder's fee.
As an aggregator.
That's right. Now, there are bar rules that govern this. When I say bar, I mean the State Bar of Georgia. I have to stay involved in the case. I have to monitor. Usually I'm on the front end and in the back end. So I bring the client in. We diagnose their problem. I help find the right lawyer or right law firm for that issue. I associate that law firm, and we come up with an amicable fee splitting that gets the client the best legal services for their legal problem. Now, when I was a baby lawyer, there was jack of all trades lawyers. They did divorce in the morning, a personal injury case at lunch, a criminal case. That doesn't happen anymore. Just like in
specialized.
medicine, you want to get to the right professional. Sure. But in my world, the man who has cases is king.
Correct.
Okay, and I have cases.
Possession is 9/10 of the law, and if you got the clients.
And while my ethical obligation is to get that client to the best lawyer for that service, and for that lawyer to pay me a referral fee and to sit second chair, which I enjoy doing.
Guys, there's never any easy money, but
no easy money.
A lot of people look at things like real estate as a great way to get passive income, because if I can, get a home and I get a renter in there and get them into a reasonably long-term lease, and they cover my nut, so to speak, on the property, it's a great way for me to have somebody else pay off my mortgage and collect cash flow. And that's why real estate's always been one of the bigger, passive income.
As long as you don't bang your head up against the wall having to go clean the
So there's no
pipes.
There's no easy money.
Frank, I have a question, though.
Yeah.
I mean, you and Rhonda selling thousands of homes or helping to sell and buy. What is your view of, not to be hypercritical of our millennial friends and young adults and children,
Yep.
but they're not buying homes.
Yeah, I think.
What's going on?
Yeah.
What are we going to do about that? That can change American culture going forward?
Absolutely
man.
can. Well, the American dream is no longer the American dream. The American dream is having enough money to be able to buy Uber and basically live in your parents' basement for 10 years. Look, here's the thing. We're all creatures of short-term memories. And so what happens is most of the millennials, they remember what a bloodbath 2007, 2008, 2009, 2010. So they have memory. Pain is a very powerful motivator. And fear and greed moves everything. Well, right now, the fear of getting in a house that's going to lose its value has a lot of these people very, very resistant of purchasing that very first house. And their lifestyles have changed. Right? I mean, it's a different mindset than the mindset that we had, which was the ideal of the white picket fence.
And even acquiring cars. They don't want to have cars.
Ted,
I don't own a car.
Yeah,
I rent a car.
Yeah,
full time.
he rents them. Yeah,
right.
I use something called Clutch. And
how cool is that?
I pay one monthly fee. I have no auto insurance, no maintenance. I write it off through the business. I have access to 30 cars, Audi Q7s, BMW X5s, Mercedes, Porsche Cayennes, whatever I want.
Wow.
I can flip the car every other day, unlimited mileage. All I really do is pay for gas. So the other day, I spilled coffee in the front seat of the car, and I thought, oh, this is awful. And I thought, I don't own this. I don't own it.
Not my problem.
Not my problem. So I called Joey Clutch guy, and he came and he took the car. I said,
cleaned it up.
I spilled coffee in the front seat, so take this and get me a new car.
Chop, bring me another car.
Give me another car.
You guys want another round? Y'all need
No.
We're good. Yeah, good.
No.
Thank you, Jeff. Again, great service, Jeff. Well, speaking of, we were talking about different industries. What about the new pot craze right now? Isn't it amazing? It's like the Wild Wild West. It's kind of like sitting in the 1840s and watching the gold stampede of out west.
Listen, there's 10 states that are now completely recreationally legal, plus the District of Columbia, which is not really a state, unless Bernie Sanders gets in, then it'll become a state. And you've got 35 states or so that's medically marijuana, and a majority of the other states that have neither or have hemp farms where they're growing hemp already. So when the law
Or people there doing CBD.
when the law passed this year called the Joyce Amendment, basically the government said to the DOJ and the DEA, you can no longer spend federal funds to be able to go chase state-run grow farms and marijuana dispensaries. So the fact is the government's basically said, we're going to kind of turn our eye here, to me at least, and say this is legal enough until we figure out how we're going to collect tax money on it.
Which is the key.
It's the liquor industry of the 1910s
That's right.
and 1920s.
That's right.
Yeah.
Listen, my mindset on this is you got dummies paying. And by the way, if you're drinking this, I'm not calling you a dummy, but you have dummies paying $7.99 for kombucha in Whole Foods, thinking that they have one of those a day, they're never going to get sick. Newsflash is that the beverage companies with CBD, they're going to put CBD in all these things and say, look, why are you going to take 4 Advil and 2 ibuprofen a day? Just drink hemp water here, and the pain will go away. And I'll tell you what, they're going to sell a crap load of that stuff over the next 10 years.
Now, from my world, the DUI defense world, which has been mostly alcohol-based,
Yeah.
Correct.
then sort of shifted over maybe the last 2 decades to alcohol plus prescription drugs
Correct.
and
The
some
opioids,
illegal
yep.
drugs.
Yeah.
Now we're going to shift to, just because it's legal,
Don't mean that you can
don't
go do
mean
it.
you can drive a
Correct.
vehicle on 400 at 87 miles an hour.
Are we parked, man?
I feel like I'm going,
so we're going to
dude.
have to redefine what probable cause is, which would be like, hey, there's 2 boxes of empty Krispy Kreme donuts in the front seat.
How fast was I going, officer? 8. 8. You were driving 8
you
miles
ju-
an
you-
hour.
this
You were
bag-
in the garage, sir.
See this bag of Cheetos? If you just confess, you can.
Let me tell you something. I really not.
Good
I,
cop,
I didn't
bad
know if I
cop.
was a huge fan of this guys, but I was in California. I don't mind saying this on air, even with Ray here, because it wasn't illegal. I was in California. I had to check it out. So I went into a dispensary there and I checked it out, and it was like Kid in the Candy Store. I mean, it really was. There was
Literally.
everything you wanted. I mean, chocolate bars. I mean, so I said,
Gummies.
I said to the guy, I said, "Is it be that bad if you give me like I get a small bag of gummies, and what do you think?" And the
I'll
guy
take some
says,
snow caps and jujubes.
he did. He said, listen, he goes, "Your first time?" And I said, "Yeah, I
In a
mean,
while.
since I was like 18. Yeah, it's fine." He goes, I would say maybe 10 milligrams. And I thought,
Ingesting it is far
10
more
milligrams is
potent.
nothing.
Yeah.
So I got in an Uber, and, I basically took 2 little squares, and I went to eat in Manhattan Beach in California. And I'm sitting at the bar there, and I order some food. I'm like, this stuff is nothing. What a joke. And then about 40 minutes into
Boom.
eating that meal,
3
boom.
pizzas later.
One woman said one question to me. I started laughing like a cackling hyena. I couldn't stop laughing for about 20 minutes. I thought, I got to get into an Uber. I got to get out of here. So
I gotta get out of this.
I paid my tab,
You weren't
Frank.
paranoid, were you?
I got into an Uber, and the guy starts driving. And I swear my hotel wasn't that far from the thing. I'm like, how far away are we? He goes, we're about 10 minutes away. I thought it was like an 80-minute ride to go 10 minutes to the Holiday Inn. But let me tell you what, that will really sneak up on you if you do
Well,
it.
ingesting. I mean,
It sounds like the opening pages of Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
The bats. The bats were
hey,
coming.
man, get these things off
I
me.
slept like a baby, though, Ray. I really did. It was a great sleep.
Those bats have no feathers on them. I don't get it.
But I think Frank, you're going to see this be. It's not the marijuana side that's actually going to get big. It's the CBD,
CBD.
The hemp side.
the hemp side that's going to be massive. It's going to be massive.
Now, from my perspective, one of the things that young people don't understand is it's not legal in a whole lot of places, even though it may have been legal where you bought it. You
Right,
can't
yeah.
bring it to another
Yeah,
place
absolutely.
that doesn't give you cover. And secondly, the THC levels. That's the component. That's the enzyme. That's what gets you high. I have been dialed up.
Sure.
Again, I'm a little bit older, and the marijuana of the 60s and 70s had some oregano and some other garbage in it,
Yeah.
stems and seeds, and maybe you got high and maybe you didn't. This stuff will get you.
Yeah.
It's designed to work because they want you to come back and buy more.
Correct.
Here's how great the business model is and what's going to happen around this. So everyone knows Airbnb, right? A lot of people have tried that. A new website came out about 3 months ago called Bud and Breakfast. Not Bed and Breakfast, Bud and Breakfast. And it now has 470 places that you can go, and it's all in the states where marijuana is legal. And you can basically say you can smoke in our house. So it's going to be the Airbnb for marijuana called Bud and Breakfast. How you like that?
Man, I think of the work ethic of the 20-year-olds now. I don't think this is going to end well.
Let's go skiing, man, and a little Bud and Breakfast.
Well, I
We
don't know.
don't need money. It's utopian,
I
dude.
mean, I don't know about you guys, but driving down the highway and you look to your left, you look to your right, there's some kid in a Hyundai with bald tires vaping, and you're saying, "Oh, geez, can is my seatbelt buckled or the airbags activated?" I mean, and of course they're taking a picture of themselves and texting it to 9,000 of their closest high school dropout friends.
It was a 7-foot smoke cloud that came out.
As my dad says, thank God we have nuclear weapons to defend ourselves.
Speaking of the young, I think there's congratulations in order for your oldest child who's going to be graduating college. Congratulations,
Tomorrow,
Dad.
I'm
Yeah.
headed out to
Olivia, yeah, that's
University
great.
of Georgia, Sanford Stadium, and I thought what I would give her for a gift is to basically tell her, "You're off payroll. You're off payroll at this point. It's done." I'm a real hard ass about it. I have to say. I don't
Life
plan on
lesson.
I don't want to give her a break, and I had $67 in my bank account when I got started, and she's going to have a little bit more than that, and Yeah, now it's time to press on, kid. You got a college degree. Let's go make something of yourself.
But mom and dad has got a $40,000 raise, right? I mean, what is that saving you?
Yeah.
Can you imagine what? By way of example, I started at Emory Law School in 1985, fall of '85. Pretty good law school. It was $6,500 for the first year. It may have ratcheted up to about $8 or $9 grand the second year, and maybe 10 or 11 because Emory was on the ramp up because, hey, some pretty good students started going there. Okay, but so it cost me right at $20,000 to $25,000 for a 3-year degree at a pretty good law school. I borrowed a little, I cheated a little, I worked a little, but I didn't come out with $150,000 to $200,000 in school loans at
It's a different beast.
6.5%, where the interest is no longer tax deductible
Correct.
either, and then had to make a job decision or a living decision. And going back to buying homes, I was able to buy a home right out of law school. I got a job as a prosecutor in DeKalb County with a steady paycheck, and health insurance and all that. And I went to the bank, and they loaned me the $71,500 to buy a 3-bedroom, 2.5-bath, driving Miss Daisy brick ranch in Decatur, which I rented 2 rooms and paid that thing off in 10 years. I don't see that young folks, and pointing here to our dear friend Daniel, who's running the show, I don't know how they can do that. When you got 150 G's because you got a double English major from Dartmouth. God bless you.
But that goes back to what we said last week. Really, if you think about it, we've got a lot of lawyers. We've got a lot of professionals. We need plumbers. We need electricians. We need, our buddy Jay Cunningham over at Superior.
Killing it.
He is paying bonuses. He will train
Yes.
you.
Be a welder.
Having the $150,000 worth of college, tuition, cost is a choice. You don't have to do it, and you can go into the military.
Now, I will say one thing, and I think we've been pretty cautious about wading into politics. But the one thing, I don't want to see these school loans written off. I don't think that's fair to those of us who paid their. However, I will say this much. I don't think the government should be in the business of profiting on the school loans. So I would work towards making them either zero interest or as close to zero interest as possible.
Yep.
I would increase rather than decrease the ability to either defer in times of hardship. You can't bankrupt them anymore. And also to work them off. So if you got a law degree and you go into the public defender's office in the inner cities and do good work, you should get a deferment. If you go to a college or a high school and teach, you should get a break. If you go into the military,
benefit.
you should get a break. I think that there's a trade-off that we need to work on that is both stimulative to folks getting their good educations and also not putting them under the rock, shackled to these ridiculous loans that then the government's making interest on. That's not right. That's not right. So,
well, I think back of my LSU days, I think my bar bill at Murphy's the first weekend was more than what my tuition was in 1981.
and you got your money's worth today.
Sure did, brother.
Frankie.
I call it Harvard on the Bayou.
Well, they can talk they can talk about free college all day long, but the reality is there's still room and board. And the funny thing is that they hear on TV people are like, we're going to get free college. It's like, that means tuition.
Correct.
You still got to pay to live somewhere. And so if you want to go to community college and live at home, of course it could be free.
Which also brings up the argument about athletes wanting to get paid, and frankly, they are already getting paid. They're getting tuition, right? I mean, compared to the
4
general
years
public.
at UGA, $40,000 a year. It's 200. That's 160 grand. I mean, that's getting paid.
Well, thanks for my misery there and bringing that up. But I just shelled out, and I got one at Auburn too.
So now with this windfall that's coming, that extra $40,000, have you and Jenna thought about where we're spending that?
Well, I thought about a couple of extra trips to Magic City. Once a week. Something like that would be good for me.
And if you don't have a gun when you go,
I haven't really thought about
one.
her with the extra money, Frank. It's mostly me I'm thinking about here.
Yeah, I think I'll help Amber go through college.
Isn't there? That's a good idea. Go to
State.
sugardaddy.com or something like that, and I find that's a perfect next chapter.
Why not have another one on the payroll?
And again, speaking of, now, what was your memories of college when you got out? You sit up there and you listen to the guy that's giving the commencement speech.
Oh,
and
yeah.
The world is your oyster, and they're dispensing wisdom. But I think back, as most of the kids today, You didn't have a hell idea what the hell you were going to do. I mean, you were flying by the seat of your pants.
I'm going to tell you because I actually have to give a commencement speech at a place called the Cottage School next
Oh,
week.
cool.
Which is,
Okay, awesome. Yeah.
Really nice school here. They get
UNLV,
about
yeah.
200 kids and stuff like that. And I remember
That's
when I
awesome.
got my first apartment after college, the only items that I had was a waterbed. I was originally Waterbed Ted. And I had a drafting table, and I had a Bed Bath & Beyond cardboard, pull-out thing to put my socks and underwear and things like that.
You had the Gordon Lightfoot ready to go on the 8-track tape at any moment.
And I think I'm telling you what, guys, the one big thing I'm
Teddy
going to
Pendergrass.
say at this commencement speech that I'm going to do is I'm going to tell these kids that really one of the big lessons I learned then and now I learned today, it's what helps me stay so even-keeled in what I do, is there's a big difference between a problem and an inconvenience. And you have to know the difference. And I tell them that a lump in your oatmeal and a lump in your throat and a lump in your breast are not the same lump. And once you notice the difference
Good
between
point.
them, you can be able to deal with the down times better because we all have them. And it's like there is the good life,
And
but you're going to have those valleys when these things happen.
It's funny, Frank, when we were at the Derby and we were in the rarefied air of some wealthy folks, they had a lot of young adults, if you remember, that were sort of volunteers. Remember, they had the matching T-shirts, and they were help collecting trash, and they're very good kids. And they were all eating a little box lunch in a tunnel.
I remember that. Yep,
and I went out to get, I don't know, a $40 hot dog, where it was. And I felt the urge to say, you little SOBs, do you want to be rich and sit in the box seats by the finish line? Then go to school. You're out here hustling, so I'm proud of you.
Yeah, you
Because
got to
those
work
kids
ethic.
had a long day, man, and they were picking up a lot of trash. And God bless them, but that's the work ethic that it takes through your whole life.
No question about it.
Here we are. It's Thursday night. We've all worked all week. It's 8:30. We're doing this because we enjoy it. We all got stuff to do tomorrow. I'm going to be on the radio at 8:20 live with
Nice.
680 The Fan. Yep, that's my gig. You've got business. You've got stuff to do, Frank. We're just hustling.
And our first stop tomorrow is we've got a good friend of Rhonda and I that actually is going to be getting sworn in her United States citizenship down in
that's wonderful, Frank.
Fulton County. And so we're going down to surprise her, doing it the right way, doing it legally.
Yep.
And so that's actually our
Very
first
cool.
stop
That's
tomorrow
wonderful,
morning.
Frank.
Yeah,
That's great.
That is cool. That is cool.
That's great.
Well, guys, again, we want to thank you all for listening to us. This was our second show of The Good Life. We hope you enjoyed it. Again, it's going out to all the Appen Media subscribers, and we're probably going to be running it on all of our social media as well. So if you're interested, again, look us up, and we're looking for good sponsors. Again, we're going to be going out to endorsers. So if you're interested, let us know. This is going to be something that we're going to be doing weekly, and you have the opportunity of, again, promoting your business if it's local here in Atlanta, or, again, just want to come on and have a good time with us. We're also going to be maybe adding a few fourth people in the seat to talk, again, fun things with us. So come on back to the next time to the Good Life with Ted Jenkin, Ray Giudice, and Frank Duffy.
And thank you, Daniel.
Yes, thank you, Daniel, for all your time. And thank you to the Palm for a wonderful night. Again, great steaks and great atmosphere. See you next time.
Good stuff. It goes down to